hard. Anyway, let me see. I still had to send. Yeah, I closed it. No, I didn't. Uh, uh, what is here? There we go. Thing on the Discord, and I don't think we have anything else to do. Why? Am I forgetting something? Just yeah, I need to make this a little bit bigger. What? New option? Draw. Okay. I guess we're not going to use that. Uh, yeah. I should like check the volume actually. I should make sure that it works and whatnot. Uh, this is sort of fine. Uh, I don't know, man. I don't want to actually get angry in terms of wow, what an irritating thing to happen to see exist and whatnot. But yeah, this the microphone out of nowhere was speaking incredibly so much. It was speaking. I unplugged the mic. I changed the mic and it was working. Anyway, also I am already here. I don't know why we would be wait. Also, why is there no clock? Sorry. I think it's yeah unavoidably. I guess you can see that it's so easy to get angry. It's like a sort of I wouldn't say addiction of sorts, but it's something that you can easily do and whatnot. So that's funny to see that you can easily switch into anger as the first response to stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's that important, but yeah, it exists anyway. Also, today, what, what, an image? Can we get our image? Why is this image named in the Russian? Why do I have a Russian file? What? Uh, okay, I guess so. This thing here on yeah, let me see. We should be fine actually. I suppose. And yeah, probably the biggest thing is always lag. Probable lag. The chance of getting out of nowhere issues of on that end, I guess. But besides that, we're fine. Uh, I don't know. Okay. Let me. We haven't really started, so let me say something. I remember talking about having this thing to read. Let me see. Give me a second. Just in case this other scene. Will this stuff not dox me in any way? I don't have to worry about that, right? Let me see. Loading, loading, adding, loading. Through. This thing, how distant everything is. This guy, Emil Cioran. I think I have, after having totally read out this guy, I think it's funny to see that he was incredibly pessimistic. I remember the first time I heard his conclusions, it was a lot more surprising. But yeah, after enough exploring what he says and whatnot, I think you can easily realize, yeah, this guy seems to be overly pessimistic. And to some degree, you can realize that with most cynics and I guess depressed authors, that their cynicism becomes more of an obstruction for their conclusions than anything else. I don't know. I guess yeah, it still is important to read people like him. Unavoidably, this guy is wonderful in terms of explaining many other things that are left unsaid. He has, I guess, in that same sense as somebody like what I also like, Bukowski and such, being brave and bold enough to mention things that no other person decides to point their fingers at. Yeah, but that I don't know, doesn't make them the best authors. Anyways, it's just a tiny thing. It's just a tiny part of the whole process. It's not like, oh wow, yeah, this guy is such a wonderful writer or anything like that. But yeah, anyway, though I think I said I recommend this book. I guess I still do so probably. I wouldn't say no, don't read Emil Cioran. Probably yeah. No, people like him are hard to read. So if you're willing to read, do whatever you want with your life, I guess. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. That's my mention today. Let me go back to here and go back to the other PDF. Alright, there we go. All of this is fun, right? Yeah, very good. So, what I was thinking about, yeah, today we have more Mahabharata to read. I was looking forward to it. I don't remember exactly why. I think I sort of said something about that the last time, supposedly, or such. And yeah, it will be a fun adventure, I guess. It's just something that needs to, as always, be done with patience, but that's also sort of implied. We're not going to be here reading something absent-minded. I think, yeah, in a certain sense, I have to say it like this. In a certain sense, one of the many benefits of getting to read something while sitting here and actively trying to make any kind of comments and whatnot is that it forces one like me to actually actively read and pay attention to what is being read. So that it's not that other process of, oh wow, yeah, I was reading just with my eyes, but not with my mind. I wasn't really absorbing the idea, I was just getting minimally close to what was being mentioned without ever taking anything from it in itself, in essence. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny to see that yeah, it can work for that much. But yeah, I don't know. It's something funny. It's something funny, and not only that, but also we have the whole PDF to read. That's sort of exhausting, but at the same time, it's as always a wonderful thing. It's the opportunity to keep on expanding, reading, understanding, explaining stuff. I guess it's useful in that sense, but yeah, I don't know. It's also still, as always, as I say, hard. So sorry if I ever miss something that should be directly addressed. That should be a more obvious connotation. No, commentary. Yeah, that's the word. A more obvious commentary or note or whatever. I guess I don't know. At some point, you kind of forget to do some basic stuff like unavoidably with works this big. There are so many conclusions to have from anything that you just have to assume that what you choose is in some way the best choice that you could have made instead of always wasting your own existence in questioning and discussing and trying to understand if the thing that you decided to look at and focus in was it indeed the best thing or not. It doesn't matter like that. We are weird to read. That's more than good enough. We get to read. I guess that the real most objective truth in all of that sense is yeah, despite my personal observations, we get to obtain any kind of message from reading all of this stuff, no matter what. So yeah, I I guess yeah, here we are. So before it gets even later, it's already like 11 p.m. here. We have I don't know, 2, 3 hours? I think we should be capable of going for three. I don't know if I can mentally do that, but we can try. Otherwise, we can at the very least try. So anyway, let me let me actually start. Uh, do I need a little bit of context? Previously, I no, I remember having had the need to read things to properly find where was it that we left and whatnot. So that's fine. I don't actually need that much context. What is this? Welcome. Good good evening. Also, I was thinking about it. Is it mystical star? Starem? How do you say it? Sorry if I have already asked. I think I have. Sorry, I do have a bad memory. I should probably write it down somewhere. But how do you say it properly? But what is this question? The answer to the question is Mahabharata, a big, a long epic about the EM. Okay, thank you. Perfect, perfect. EM. M. Sorry. But this is the Mahabharata in itself is one of the biggest Hindu uh, religious text or sort of sacred text for the whole Sanskrit religion and whatnot. It is one of their founding stories basically, and it's an interesting read in itself because it talks about a lot of things. Inside of this, for example, there is something that you have probably heard of. That is the Bhagavad Gita. That thing is contained inside of here. And the point is to try to finish reading all of this, not to get there and that's it, to finish reading the whole story. But yeah, that's what this is. One of those. Yeah, the proper category is just religious. It's not really in any other way. It can have philosophical, scientific, and whatnot um, ideas. I guess even more to a certain degree. Yeah, I remember trying to say something about this last time. There is a certain issue with the way in which the Hindus believe in stuff. They try to justify what is being said before, what was written before. They try to categorize it or recategorize those things into the newer concepts that we find out. Like, for example, supposedly one of the things that happen that we are capable of observing here is the Hindus sort of predicted the string theory because, in some way, you see a story about how their main god was capable of seeing all of the many possibilities and all of the different situations that get to happen and arise from all the things that happen in the world, and how everything is interconnected in a certain way in which not only the main reality in which we live is the important one, but also everything else that gets to come after that. Because it is not only the choice that we make, but also all the other possibilities that are not. Are you trying to live forever? Am I? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm, I'm not trying to live forever. I personally no. I'm just, I guess, trying to understand stuff. If the question sort of comes from the side of why do we have to read this, to try and understand the story, that's or not the story, to try and understand and take any other message that is to some degree beyond what is the basic conclusion that is contained within the story, let's say. Like, for example, an easy example, something that we already read. Let me try to find something. It will take me like half a second or so. It's I have to actually remember where. That's the issue. Continue, Yudhishthira, Brahmana Reshta, do command by the wisdom, words of blessing to hear, the Vihodama of our is lost. No, what I have told you was true. This, for example, clasp humility and goodness to you. Gain control over all the earth. Rejoice and be happy. This is the virtuous life. This is in itself not being something without any context. It can sort of sound directed to the reader. It is really instead of a whole conversation that happens between two characters, but at the same time, that is also why these sort of stories are interesting to analyze. They contain messages that are not being directly expressed to the reader, but that the reader has to imply they are being directed at them. That's why I try to understand this, to see what are some ideas contained inside of all of this stuff, like in a more fastened version, not something that I can actually point like this one. In a more fastened version, you can also see things like, oh yeah, they talk about karma, dharma, adharma, and all of those things, and you can find in many ways how you try to make sure that you have that, how you can be a proper harvester of good karma, of good dharma. How can you profess proper practices that will lead to good results and all of that stuff? And it's taking those things out, I guess. I wouldn't say it to integrate in life. I don't I don't do it exactly because of that. It's more along the lines of because it's an interesting proposition in itself to be capable of understanding what are the ideas that compose them. I guess if you need another sort of category to be capable of a what this is, maybe some sort of I don't want to misuse the word, but I guess to some degree, and an anthropological analysis of the text to some degree, taking into consideration that all of that is to try to see the other cultures and to make sense of how they exist and how they tend to behave and whatnot. That something is also what we do here, I guess. That's what reading the Mahabharata is about, at least for me, yeah. But yeah, I hope it was in any way clear. Sorry for, I don't know, taking so long to explain something so easy. Yeah, we are just reading a book. That's quick version. Sorry for being so verbose. Reading a book, trying to get the message, and trying to decipher the message if it isn't explicitly being stated. That's the whole thing that happens. Sorry. But yeah, anyway. Um, any other thing that I should. No, I don't know. Ah, yeah. I was trying to say we don't need any other previous reading before this. Actually, I I sort of remember the context. I sort of remember what we're talking about here. So yeah. But it's so back. Let me just start reading. Also, I finally understand this thing, this text, and these lines that are above the text and whatnot. It's like the this I don't know what is that underline or something like that is moved for some reason. Although it is, I guess it is a weird format of PDF. I don't know. Anyway, the point is we have to read. Don't let me make any more excuses. Let me actually start. We are a quick, rapid introduction. We are hearing so far the Mahabharata once again. The Mahabharata contains a lot of stories about the different cultures of the epic that it talks about. Inside of it, the main protagonists are the Pandavas, who are enemies of the Kurus. What we are seeing right now is the Pandavas and their whole adventure throughout the world before they get to fight the Kurus once again. The importance of this story, I don't remember exactly. This is like one of the moments in which the Pandavas are talking with good people, basically, and getting to absorb knowledge about the world and whatnot. That's why we are also at this stage hearing not just about the good people Pandavas themselves, but about all of the other stories and questions that they have for uh, Brahmana being the sort of most cultivated human beings of that era, and that obviously within the context of the epic sort of deities of a different kind. But yeah, that's as much context as we actually need. I don't know. I guess, as always, please ask if I am not being clear enough. Sorry. Uh, but yeah, let me start. Canto 192. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. But Sampayana said, the rishis, the Brahmanas, and Yudhishthira then asked Markandeya, how did the Rishi Baka have such a long life? Markandeya says, the Raharishi Baka is a great tapasvin and was, indeed, blessed with long life. But do not ask why. Hearing this, O Mahabharata, Yudhishthira, Dharmaraja, and his brothers say to Markandeya, we have heard that Baka, as well as Dalbia, both illumined souls, are immortal and that they, who are universally revered, are dear to the king of the Devas. We would like to hear about the meeting of Baka and Indra, the story that is at once sad and happy. Tell it to us in brief. Markandeya says, when the great war between the Devas and the Asuras was over, Indra became sovereign of the three worlds. The clouds brought plentiful rain, and the people on earth enjoyed rich harvests. They became contented and lived virtuous, peaceful lives. Everyone lived according to their svadharma, at peace with each other and the world. And seeing serenity prevail, Indra, slayer of Bala, was filled with joy. Seated on his elephant Airavata, he of the 100 sacrifices surveyed his subjects. He looked at the rishis as ramas, at the sacred rivers, at prosperous towns and villages, at the plenitude of the countryside. He saw kings living by dharma, ruling justly over their subjects. He looked at tanks and reservoirs, wells, lakes, and ponds full of water, beside which devout Brahmanas lived, keeping excellent vratas. And Indra came down to the felicitous earth, Rahan, and went to a blessed asrama set in a charming grove on the eastern shore. There, in that asrama, where many animals and birds lived, and rice grew in profusion, Indra saw Baka. Overjoyed to see Indra, Baka received him worshipfully. He washed his feet with water, offered him arghya, spread a carpet for him to sit on, and served him fruit and roots to eat. When he was comfortably seated, the divine ruler of the immortals asked Baka, sinless Muni, you have lived for 100 years. Tell me, O Rahamana, what are the sorrows of those that are immortal? Baka answered, saying, living with those one dislikes, separation from loved ones and good men, living amongst the wicked. These are the evils that immortals have to bear. Among the worst sorrows they have to endure is the death of sons, wives, relatives, and friends, and the pain of dependence on others. In my opinion, there is nothing more pitiful than a poor man being insulted by a rich one. Are there iniquities? What? Iniquities that the immortals have to witness are the acquisition of high status by those that do not have or deserve it, the loss of it by those that do, disharmony and discord, and how the wealthy gain all that they want despite not having honor. Those that live forever have to see all this. O Lord of the 100 Yagnas, what can be sadder than the calamities and reverses experienced by Devas, Asuras, Gandharvas, Manavas, Nagas, and Rakshasas? Those of noble birth suffer by becoming subjects of the lowborn. The poor are humiliated by the rich. These are distressing conditions. The world is replete with such injustices. The fool and the ignorant are cheerful and glad, while the learned and the wise endure misery. There is so much sorrow and pain, and the deathless have to see it all, and they suffer. Indra said, Blessed One, tell me, what are the joys that immortals enjoy, which are also enjoyed by the gods? Bhaga answered, there is none happier than the man who cooks even a scanty meal in the height sorry, in the 8th or 12th hour of the day. And the man who has no evil friends, true happiness belongs to one who does not eat too much or voraciously. The man who cooks even a few meager vegetables and fruit that he has earned through his own effort and prepared in his own house. Such a man is worthy of respect. A man who eats food in another's house, given to him in contempt, does a despicable thing, even if the fare is rich. That is why the wise never touch the food of men that eat in another's house, what? Like dogs or rakshasas. What? There is no better thing than for a good Brahmana to eat what remains after feeding his guests and servants and offering food to his ancestors. No food is sweeter or more sacred. There is nothing more delicious or more sacred than food of which the first serving is given to a guest. Every mouthful of rice that the Brahmana eats after having served his guest is as blessed as giving away 100 cows, and will wash away whatever sins he committed in his youth. If a Brahmana sprinkles water over the one who serves him such food, that person is cleansed of his sins. After speaking of this and other matters with Baka, the Lord of the Devas returns to Indraloka. Canto 192, I think. Yeah. Also, let me see. What? That's the whole story? Just that tiny bit? Okay. That's that's the whole story of who was it? The Rishi Baka. The Rishi Baka and his visit, or yeah, how the Rishi Baka was being visited by Indra. I guess yeah. Sadly, they cannot talk about. Oh, what is it? On the Great War. The Maharishi Baka is a great Tapaswin and was indeed blessed with long life. But do not ask why. Okay, we cannot know why this guy is sort of immortal, I guess, but we can at the very least have the possibility of observing everything else. And I guess, una the most obvious thing to look at is this whole conversation between Indra and Baka, in which the conversation is what are the things that the immortal enjoys and what are the pains of the immortality that anyone has to go through, or, or that anyone suffers once they become such. And I think, yeah, it it's not really that complex. It's just seeing injustices happen, seeing having to suffer so many losses, and yeah, let me see. These are the fuels that the mortals have to bear. Among the sorrows they have to endure is the death of sons, wives, or relatives. Pain of dependence on others. What is the pain of dependence on others? Is it like I don't really get that one part. Is it talking about the dependence in terms of because you become such an old person in immortality? Yeah, that is something funny that differs across religions. In some cases, you become immortal, and you become immortal, and young. You become only immortal in terms of existence, but your body is still decay. So you need to be attended by younger people still and whatnot. So it's sort of complicated to be capable of saying why is it that it is a pain, or why is it that the dependence on others is a thing to be worried about once one becomes immortal, I guess. Also, yeah, better question yet. Why are we considering immortality? What's what's the proper way in which you understand something like immortality? I think it's more along the lines of longevity. Probably, yeah. Uh, The divine ruler of the immortals asked Baka, Sinless Moon, you have lived for 100 years. And at that point, they were already starting to consider this guy an immortal. So I guess immortality is more along the lines of the correlation with longevity in itself, not just, oh, yeah, yeah, being actually immortal we might as well say that somebody who lives, I don't know, like what is common nowadays, 110, 120. I think it is like the common oldest age of people, or oldest age of the average very old person. That's like the normal thing nowadays. So probably that's why at this point this guy who only lived 100 years was being considered an immortal, because he went through, how many are there? I think the Hindus are like, or not particularly the Hindus, as in, oh yeah, only these people, but the norm is like every 20 years or so, it's one generation. So having lived through 5 generations is quite a lot, I guess. And that sort of already qualifies you to be an immortal in terms of comparison to other people. But yeah, makes sense. And still, I don't know. The conclusions are already being said here. We don't really need to dig that deep on them. I don't think so. I have to only say one thing. Yeah, one of the many points. More now that we are talking in general about the Mahabharata and whatnot, uh, people, anybody has to observe Dharma. What is Dharma? The way in which you should properly live, the way in which you are capable of following the rules that allow you to live the best of your life, so that you are in accordance with all of the rules that exist within your society. That is Dharma. And one of the things that I do not truly understand is why living with those one dislikes, living amongst the wicked, why those things would be issues if you are trying to follow what is the right thing to do, what is the dharma, what is your own dharma, shouldn't be to get angry because you live amongst unjust people and unfair people and a crooked system of living and whatnot. I think that is, I wouldn't be capable of, yeah, properly saying if that is a sort of mistake to get to see as an issue, or to suffer over, I guess. But it is something that makes me wonder, why would they say that in particular? Why would the point be, oh yeah, you know what, having to see bad people do bad stuff annoys me? To some degree, you have a responsibility, you have your own dharma that you have to follow, your own cultural dharma and whatnot. You shouldn't be getting so distressed for all of those things. It's more along the lines, yeah. I think a proper example was something along the lines of, in what I remember having read is, dharma is in many cases understanding that things are going to be bad and not getting affected by it, not in terms of being a stoic person, as we could say nowadays, but rather being able of understanding that indeed it is going to be a negative thing to do, to focus only on the consequences of the bad things that bad people do. You are not obliged to be affected by that. You can instead do your own part of existence and focus on what are your obligations and fulfill those. Because no matter what the bad people does, as long as you're not directly killed, you're fine. They are not such big issues as this makes it sound, I think. But yeah, that's the message, I guess. Or that's my inquiry in this case. Why would they say, "Oh yeah, you know what? We have these issues with people who have having to live amongst bad people is such a painful thing." I don't know, man. I don't think so. I do understand why saying it makes sense. I don't think so. I don't think it's that bad. Also, the good things was, which are also no, the soys that the immortals enjoy. They are. Yeah. I kind of forgot about this. What is this guy talking about? The man who cooks. I understand the idea of having friends, and even more having no evil friends, having truly good people on your side. But cooking, what? True happiness belongs to one who does not eat too much. The man who cooks even a few meager vegetables and fruit that he has earned through his own effort and prepared in his own house. Ah, okay. The man who cooks even a few meager vegetables and fruit that he has earned through his own effort and prepared in his own house. I think trying to boil it down even more. Earned through his own efforts. This concept of what tastes the best is the thing that you worked for, work towards, not being a leech. That's why later on it says, oh yeah, and the guy who goes out there and begs people for food and forces them to give him some sort of substance of sorts and yeah, and supplies and whatnot, when he has no obligation of doing so, is a bad person, is a wrong, is somebody who's doing something wrong. But in itself, the point is, yeah, your efforts lead, or sorry, the person who can be capable of using their efforts on satisfying themselves, and even more, not only later on, that is also why it even more gets evolved in that whole explanation of, oh yeah, and there is no better thing than for a good Brahmana to eat what remains after feeding his guests and servants and offering food to his ancestors, being capable of harvesting so much food that you can not only feed yourself but also feed other people, feed those who are above you, below you, and who were before you. I think that is the sort of explanation with guests, servants, and offering food to ancestors, and being capable of doing all of that. And then, even more, still possessing enough food to also have your own feeling equals that you were capable of utilizing enough, yeah, or you were capable of putting enough efforts into the things that you supposedly like so that you can get enough good things to come out of the actions that you seem to be performing every single day, I guess. It's unavoidably, this is sort of embedded in the tradition of, oh, yeah. And I need to sustain myself, I need to sustain others and whatnot. And it's something sort of puzzling for somebody like us who doesn't live in those more close, connected societies. I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's complicated to talk about it from our perspective because capitalism and whatnot makes it very easy for us to forget that, yeah, you can actually have interest in other people and you can actually not only put your own efforts in your own existence, but you can even put them in order to allow others to be. Then, after that, you can also still have enough to sustain yourself. And I guess that's like a whole discussion in itself. The realization that sometimes your efforts in this world don't equal enough even to sustain yourself. So the loss and the separation between you and the rest and whatnot is a more complicated matter than we can't really we can talk about it. We don't need to do so. The point in itself is to read the Mahabharata, not to talk about the state of the world. Yes. So yeah, that's the analysis itself is that, yeah, getting to do things that help you and others is good. And let me see, am I? And yeah, also getting to have good people along your side, and yeah, no, nothing else basically. That's the whole basic reading. One second, that's Canto 192. Let me ring something now. Thank you. Anyways, Canto. Let me see. we haven't lagged. We are so good, brother. Canto 193. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. But Sampayana said, the sons of Pandu say to Markandeya, you have told us of the greatness of Brahmanas. Now we want to hear of the glory of the royal caste, the Kshatriyas. Maharishi Markandeya says to them, listen while I tell you of the eminence of the Kshatriyas. A king named Suhotra of the Kuru clan went on a journey to visit the great rishis. As he was returning, he came upon King Sibi, the son of Usinara, riding in his chariot. As they approached one another, each greeted the other in a way he thought most fitting, but neither would give way to the other's chariot, as each considered himself the other's equal. At this moment, the Devarishi Narada appeared there and said, what? And seeing them, demanded, sorry, why are you both blocking each other's way? The kings said to Narada, Holy One, do not ask. The sages of old have declared that the one who is superior or more able should have a right of way. We are equal to each other in every respect, and neither of us can be charged to be superior to the other. Hearing this, Narada recited three slokas. O Gurunandana, the arrogant mean what the arrogant man treats everyone, even humble folks, with cruelty. One who is humble behaves with modesty and candor to all, even to those who are unprincipled. He who is honest behaves honestly, even towards the dishonest. Why then would he not behave honestly with those who have integrity? The honest man thinks of any service done to him as being a hundredfold. Is this not how the gods are? Is it the royal son of Usinara who is a better man than you? One should win over the mean-minded with charity, the untruthful with truth, the wicked with forgiveness, and the dishonest with honesty. You are both large-hearted. Keeping these locusts in mind, one of you must give way to the other. Narada fell silent and, hearing what the rishi said, the king of the Kurus walked around Sivi in Pradakshina, praised his many achievements, and allowed him to pass. Then he went on in his way. Narada uses this story to illustrate the greatness of the Kshatriyas. Eh, what? That, that's Canto 193. Okay. I remember having heard something very recently, a different way to understand what a metaphor is. Metaphors are things that serve to show what we couldn't see otherwise. This it's not along the lines of oh yeah, metaphor is a product of speech utilized to symbolize things that are not there. No, metaphors are things that we used to show what wasn't there before or what we couldn't realize was there before. Now, what is the metaphor here? Wow. Narada uses this story to illustrate the greatness of the Kshatriyas. Narada, yeah, particular backstory. Narada is like one of the main munis. Munis being monks, most powerful monks who exist amongst the whole order of important beings. Narada is one of those incredibly important beings for the story as a whole. And inside of that, Narada utilizes this story to illustrate the greatness of the Kshatriyas. What is this about? This is, I guess, yeah, this is incredibly hard. And also, it's short. It's incredibly short. It's only two, not even 2 pages long. The concept is Okay, let me excuse me, but let me do it like this. So far, what I understand, the Kshatriyas are the race. Uh, well, where was it? The eminence of the Kshatriyas? Want to hear royal caste? Yeah, royal caste. The Kshatriyas. Those are the Kshatriyas, the people who are destined to be kings and queens and whatnot. Um, they are all beings who, to some degree, possess importance. The eminence of the Kshatriyas. This story is about the eminence. What? I think it is in some way related to how people get to. Oh yeah, this is in itself complicated. I think it's probably about how the properness of a Kshatriya gets to be, or how the different statuses of Kshatriyas and whatnot. It's can you let's say it like this, or let's you have told us of the greatness of Brahmanas. Now we want to hear of the glory of the royal caste, the Kshatriyas. Because, yeah, the greatness of the Brahmanas, said in plural, when what we got before was just one story, the same thing here. The greatness of the Kshatriyas, what we also get is just one other story. I think the idea itself is always really to focus on the good aspects of those different castes and whatnot. Um, Yeah, here we have another one. Listen now to another story. It's just tiny fragments to understand how, while fulfilling their roles as a Treya is a person who is not only destined to be a king, a queen, but also is somebody who needs to fight for their own kingdom, who needs to literally go into war based on their older traditions, and also it's somebody who possesses the capacity to be humble enough to realize that sometimes, instead of this whole situation, is sometimes it's necessary to say that one might not be as capable as the other one, even if it isn't completely real. I wouldn't be capable of knowing how to put it into the correct words. I get the idea, but I don't have the way to put it into good words because the idea itself is here. Uh, this part of the paragraph. One should win over the mean-minded with charity, the untruthful with truth, the wicked with forgiveness, and the dishonest with honesty. That means you should, in in a similar context like the Bible, that whole idea of you should, even if you are being faced by a wrongdoer, you should not do wrong like they do, because you are not on the same level. You should be always capable of doing better than those who commit sins and whatnot. But in this case, it's like this Satreya, was it? The king of the Kurus, became had to sort of ridiculise himself or make himself look in some way lesser than the other, just to conform to the rule or to the norm of, oh yeah, yeah, we are less important, or I am less powerful than you. Please, let's solve this issue. I don't know. I don't. I think the message is sort of obvious in this other way. Not every situation requires conflict. Therefore, even if you are a Kshatriya, somebody who is by nature bounded to be surrounded by war, you do not require to force every situation to devolve into conflict when it isn't an actual requirement, like this case. That's, I think, a good explanation for it. Why also particularly those other things were being said of, oh yeah, the person who can't do good things should answer the one who does bad things with good things. Always. I guess that's sort of the conclusion. Also, yeah, no. Before I continue, I remember saying something quite recently, and yeah, I think it's funny to try to consider all of these castes and whatnot because we actually don't possess them anymore nowadays. Not even in just in our culture or whatever. We are not Hindus. We don't have any of that culture ourselves. But even in the modern India, these things I think don't exist with as much severity as they did before. I think the only sustained ones are the Brahmanas in terms of the people who are allowed to be secluded, the Kshatriyas in terms of the most powerful positions, and the third, I don't remember how they call themselves, or not themselves, how they are designed, the ones who are forced to be laborers and slaves and whatnot. Yeah, it's complicated to understand these stories in that context, not because we don't have them anymore, we can't talk about them, but rather because once you try to put them in practice nowadays, how can you properly apply it? Let's say, how can you properly understand? Okay, is it only actually talking about Kshatriyas? Isn't it really talking about any kind of person who can avoid problems and whatnot? Isn't that sort of the conclusion? Isn't that sort of the honest idea? That anybody, the dissolution of classes, let's say, leads that many of these other examples, lessons, and whatnot become universal because the loss of the other classifications and further specifications of ways in which society aligns makes it so that everyone needs to follow similar rules. In this case, being, oh yeah, you should do good whenever you are being capable of doing good, which was only in this case being given to, oh yeah, you're a Kshatriya, you should avoid conflict. But that is also not what was being directly stated. It was any Kshatriya who can should do good things, even if they are faced with a bad Kshatriya on the other side. That's why it's, I guess, not exactly complicated, but to decipher. Anyways, let me continue. Let me absolutely continue. That's also Canto 193, now Canto 194. Also, no lag so far. Yeah, we're fine. So let me drink some water. Okay, come to. Also, I changed position. Oh my god, did it change too much the mic? No, it didn't. Okay, we are good. No, we aren't. Yeah, it did change the mic. Man, here it should be fine. Let me see. Does it work? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now, continuing. Sorry. Canto 194. Markandeya Samasya Parva continues. Markandeya continues. Listen now to another story. One day, as King Yayati, the son of Nahusha, was sitting on his throne, surrounded by his people, there came to him a Brahmana begging for alms on behalf of his guru. He approached the king and said, "O king, because of my vow to him, I beg for alms for my guru." The king said, "Holy one, tell me what your vow is." The man said, "O king, in this world men are contemptuous of one who begs them for alms. With what feelings will you give me what I ask for, on which I have set my heart?" The king replies, "Once I give something away, I never boast of it. I do not entertain requests for things I cannot give. But I do hear a request for those that I can, and giving them makes me glad. I will give you 1,000 cows. The Brahmana that asks me for a gift is always dear to me. I am never angry with the man who begs alms of me, and I am never sorry for having given away anything. And the Brahmana then got 1,000 cows from the king and went away. Yeah, I think it's sort of easy. It's sort of not so easy. Depends. Filler answer it depends. But yeah, that's kind of 194. Yeah, let me. We can do it rapidly. Let's dispose of this canto. The whole explanation that we are being offered here is how, in many ways, those who are in positions of power still have the necessity to obey tutor rules of being charitable to those who come to them asking for any kind of gift that would allow them to be happier or sort of to just even sustain themselves. That's why, in a certain sense, what matters is that, yeah, indeed, one can actually fulfill this position. And also, within that whole category, that is why we hear one of those many. This guy says this, but this doesn't apply only to himself. This should be what everyone should be capable of doing. Once I give something away, I never boast of it. This same thing happens here. The idea is any Kshatriya should be capable of understanding that, yeah, if I give something away, I should never be using what I did, what I gave away, that whole action that I performed for the sake of gratifying my own existence and making it look like I am a better person than the rest, just because I fulfilled my obligation, sort of. That's why, even if it makes them glad, as it says here, giving them makes me glad. I do hear requests for those that I can. The point is still not to boast and never to make display and to allow oneself to become prideful, I guess, in that sense, of the things that they do for the fulfillment of their positions in life. That's why this, as I said before, this idea is simple in that sense, but also it's complicated in the sense of, okay, yeah, why exactly does that happen? Is it trying to talk about the fulfillment of the roles that are being assigned to anyone? Is it also talking about the proper fulfillment of that existence, which involves not only being in a correlation with other people, but also accepting that indeed we get to share those times, we get to share those experiences, we get to enjoy and connect more. If we can actually do them and whatnot, I don't know. I don't know. I get sort of the main premise, but let me. No, yeah, I don't think it's that deep, this one. I think that's it. Yeah, that's Canton 194. Continue. Canto 195. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, the Pandavas addressed the Rishi one more and say, tell us more about the honor of the Kshatriyas. And Markandeya says, there were two kings named Bharishadarabha and Siddhuka, and both of them were learned in Dharma and in the Astra Shastra, on the ways of attack and defense. Siddhuka knew the Siddhuka knew that Bharishadarabha had sworn a silent vow in his childhood to give no metal to Brahmanas other than gold and silver. One day, a Brahmana who had completed his Vedic studies came to Seduka and, blessing him, begged him for alms for his guru, saying, "Give me 1,000 horses." Seduka said to him, "I cannot give your guru what you ask. Go to Raja Brisadarbha or Brahmana. He's a virtuous king. If you ask him, he will give you 1,000 horses, for that is his bow." The, the Brahmana went to Brisadarbha and begged him for 1,000 horses. The king responded by striking the Brahmana with a whip, at which the Brahmana said, "Why do you attack an innocent man?" The Brahmana was on the point of cursing him when the king said, "Oh Brahmana, do you curse the man who does not give you what you ask for? Is this the dharma of a Brahmana?" And the Brahmana said, "Rahadahiraha, King of Kings, I came to beg from you because Seduka sent me here." The king said, "I will give you whatever tribute I received today. How can I send away empty-handed the man I have whipped?" And the king gave that Brahmana all the proceeds of the day, which was more than the value of 1,000 horses. That's Canto 195. This is getting incredibly abstract even for me. I can I can accept it. I have some levels of abstraction, at least on myself. I can abstract ideas, yeah. I can do that. I can't properly get still what is the point of this one canto. What? Uh, what are we even talking about? Man, it has so many things. It's yeah, not every canto is like this one. Why are not all cantos short like this one and complicated to understand, but brief enough so that any one possible interpretation is good enough, not with so many things to try to talk about that it is hard to even choose where to go. Man, anyway, let me think for a second. I think the point is, yeah, a sort of an avoidable quick summary of this story is, since Ashatreya has their obligations with the Brahmanas to give alms and to allow them to keep subsisting on them, the whole system of castes is the Brahmanas exist above all else. They subsist on Kshatriyas, and the Kshatriyas live on the common folks, let's say, who work for the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas, to some degree, work for Brahmanas, work mostly for themselves. For the common folk, the Kshatriyas are the governors of the common folk. And both common folk and Kshatriyas still have to pay oblations and have to pay their due respects and give boons to Brahmanas. In this case, the story is talking about how even in some cases, unavoidably, what was it? Seduka knew that Brisadarbha had sworn a silent vow in his childhood to give no metal to Brahmanas other than gold and silver. That's why, in this case, it's the story being capable of understanding that one has the role feel doesn't mean that one has to break their own vows, their own personal choices, for the sake of fulfilling the norm, the general tradition, let's say. And even more, what happens inside of this is that that's why we have this whole conflict between Seduka sending the Brahmana to Birsadarabha and whatnot. The whole idea is also that even when conflict might arise, one can still make proper exceptions to the rule without directly breaking their vows or vows with the things that one wants to respect, let's say. Because here, the king gave that Brahmana all the proceeds of the day, which was more than the value of 1,000 horses. It is complicated to say that it is directly breaking the rule of the previous vow that this Kshatriya had, but it is still good enough to say that at the very least, yeah, I guess the abstraction becomes to be capable of understanding that although we have our honor to protect our vows to keep doing and all of those things, nonetheless, we also have a possibility to work around those same issues. It doesn't mean that we have to get condemned. That's why the Arhamana was on the point of cursing him. We don't need to get condemned. We don't need to get destroyed by karma, which we can avoid by correcting the mistake that we did. That's, I guess, the proper analysis of this Canto 195, I think it was. So yeah, continuing. Canto 196. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Markandeya says, one day the gods decided to come down to earth and test the dharma of King Sivi, the son of Usinara. Agni and Indra descended to Bhumi, and Agni took the form of a pigeon flying away from Indra, who pursued him as a hawk, and the pigeon fell into King Sivi's lap while he sat on his throne. The Rajapurohita, the royal priest, said to the king, this pigeon is afraid of the hawk and has come to you for refuge. Wise men say that a pigeon falling on one's lap is a bad omen and forewarns of some grave danger. You're a king and understand science, so give the pigeon to the hawk in charity and save yourself from the danger indicated. The pigeon spoke to the king. I am afraid of the hawk and I have come to you to save my life. I am actually a Muni. I have taken the form of a pigeon and come to you for protection. You hold my life in your hands. I am learned in the Vedas. I am a brahmachari with self-control and a tapasvin. Further, I have never spoken disrespectfully to my guru. And I possess every quality of the pure-hearted. I chant the Vedas. I know the poetic form and meter of all the verses. I am letter perfect in the Vedas, and I am not a pigeon. Oh, do not give me up to the hawk. Giving up a learned and chaste Brahmana never makes a good gift. Now the hawk addressed the king and said, creatures are not always born on the earth in the same form. In some former life you might have been a child of this pigeon. It is not proper for you, O king, to interfere with my procuring food by protecting the pigeon, even though he might have been your father. The king said, has anyone ever heard birds speak the pure language of men? Hearing what the pigeon and hawk had to say, how can we tell what is the right thing to do? He that surrenders a frightened creature, which seeks his protection from its enemy, does not get protection when he himself needs it. Indeed, the clouds do not send rain for him. The seeds he sows do not sprout for him. He that, he that gives up an afflicted creature seeking protection from its enemies will see his children die in their infancy. The ancestors of such a man will never attain bliss in heaven. The gods do not accept the libations of he that such a man pours into the sacred fire. He that gives up a frightened creature which has come to him for refuge from its enemies is struck by a thunderbolt cast by the gods, with Indra at their head. The food he eats is unclean, and he of the small soul falls from grace. O hog, let the people of the Sivi clan place before you a bull cooked with rice in place of the pigeon, and let them carry an abundance of meat to your home, wherever you live. The cook said, O king, I do not ask for a bull or for any other meat, nor do I ask for anything more than this pigeon, which the gods have given me. The pigeon's death has been ordained, and it is my meal for today. So, Orahan, give it to me. The king replied, My men will bring a live bull to your home. Consider the bull the ransom for this terrified bird, and I will myself supervise its being fetched to your dwelling. Don't kill the pigeon. I will surrender my own life before the pigeon's. Do you not see how, like a sacrifice dove with so much juice, this pigeon looks? Blessed one, do not be obstinate. I can in no way give the pigeon to you. Command me to do something else that pleases you and satisfies you, something which I am able to do, of which the men of the civic clan will be proud and praise me for. I promise to do what you ask. The hawk said, Rahan, if you give me flesh cut from your right thigh, that is equal to the weight of the pigeon, you can save him. This will please me and be praiseworthy. The king agreed to this, and, cutting a piece of flesh from his right thigh, weighed it against the pigeon. But the pigeon was heavier. The king carved out another piece of his flesh, but still the pigeon was heavier. Then the king cut pieces of flesh from all parts of his body and placed them on the scale. But the pigeon continued to weigh more than all of them. Finally, the king, cheerfully and without a trace of regret, climbed bodily onto the scales, and the hawk vanished from there, exclaiming, Saved! The king said to the pigeon, Oh, pigeon, tell us who the hawk is. No one other than the Lord of the Universe could do as he did. Exalted one, answer me. The pigeon said, I am the smoke bannered Agni, also called Vaiswarana. The hawk is Sachi's lord, the wielder of the thunderbolt, son of Surata. You're a bull among men. We came to test you. Those, sorry, these pieces of flesh, Rahan, that you have cut from your body with your sword to save my life, have made deep wounds. I will sanctify them. Your scars will be the color of gold and fragrant. You will earn great fame, and the gods will honor you. Long will you reign over your subjects, and you will father a son who will be called Capotaroma. O king, this child will be born from your body, and you will see him become the best of the Suratas, a prince who will blaze with fame, valor, and beauty, says Markandeya. And that's Canto 196, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we go back to long cantos. I think, yeah, this one is complicated because it's, let's say like this, levels of analysis. exist within all the different texts that we get to read. The issue is in itself getting to understanding which level we are standing. In many cases, like, okay, is this an actual metaphor? Is this a thing in itself that is being talked about? Is this any other? Is this a transposition of an idea that is not being directly ever mentioned, but rather is present due to its absence in the lack of all a mention about it? How does that work, and how do we get to understand what we are trying to talk about in that sense? And why is it that all of this works in that way? It's, I guess, it's still sort of complicated. Let me try to properly. He that gives up an afflicted creature seeking protection from its enemies will see his children die. The king said, has anyone ever heard birds speak the pure language, hearing what the bison and hawk have to say? He that surrenders a frightened creature which seeks its protection from its enemies does not get protection when he himself needs it. I think it's. Let's say like this. Let me try to properly explain it. I have an idea, but I don't know if I can explain it. Unavoidably, the final part is what makes sense out of this the most, that this was being a test, and that all of this was to, in the end, bless this one Kshatriya for his good doings, proper doings, good, proper, perfect, or karma aligned actions. That's why this one is useful, interesting to consider, and all of that. But at the same time, not only that, it also contains within itself the whole narration of, and none of this does not only bring good things to the people who perform them, to those who have all of these things going on, but also, in a certain way, that's okay. Basic idea is that uh, being able of surviving tests gives you great benefits. Basic idea, but within that explanation, in this case, it is aligned with something even more sacred, so to speak, because the king, the Kshatriya, talks about has he that surrenders a frightened creature, he that gives up an afflicted creature. This stuff is talking about the more natural sense of things, or the more realistic way of interpreting the events. Any kind of creature that seeks refuge in anyone, in any human, falls onto the hands of the human who needs now to protect them. In this whole wheel of karma, what happens is if we consciously decide to ignore the creature, what we are going to find later on in our own life is negative karma that will give us negative consequences unavoidably. That's why, in any kind of situation of this sort, it is necessary to take care of those who are less protected. I guess I wasn't thinking about it in that sense. Just now I realize also that's why in some to some degree it might even be an allegory, not just for animals in general that need protection, but even for humans themselves who are afflicted by illness and by problems and such, who also are required to be assisted. Being capable of assisting those who we find come to us asking for assistance is a requirement, a necessity within our own existence. We are obliged to do so. We have the obligation to fulfill this role. Any human being who is capable of assisting others once they are being asked for it and decide to not do so are going to find negative consequences in their own life. That is the whole concept of this. In this case, the pigeon itself is the transposition of not just the animals, but even the other people who are in a lesser position of more vulnerability than the king. That's that's the message. Also, I remember I already read all of this story before. I already probably gave my conclusion on all of this before. I don't even know what was that conclusion before. But yeah, this is what I can say right now. Something else that I am missing? I guess yeah, I am completely dismissing all of what the Hawk said. I don't think the Hawk was only trying to sway the king into giving up the vision. I don't think he was saying anything important or anything worth considering. I guess it only serves as a counter argument or as a negative statement, as a counter negative, as a counter argument of a negative sort. Only there being provided to us to understand how you might try to reason or rationalize your way out of a situation of this sort. That's why it, this whole argument goes through the line of, oh yeah, because it is nature for me to eat this pizza, and I am an animal who eats. The hawk is an animal who eats pigeons, therefore you should do as nature does and allow me to consume this thing instead of interfering. No, the conclusion itself ends up being something wholly different. Because it seeks a refuge in humans, now it becomes something that has to deal with us, that needs intervention from the human protection and a rigorous observation from humans rather than anything else. And yeah, I think that's it. Sort of. Uh, Nothing else to add. Do I? I mean, yeah. Unavoidably, this whole other thing of this test require you to do the best of your perform to the best of your capacities and whatnot. I guess the king or the person, in this case we're only talking about kings, but the reality is in the modern day, the person who is capable of giving up everything that they have on their possessions for the sake of protecting others who are in more vulnerable positions get the most blessings out of that. Even if it leaves them with scars and damages that might as well be visible for the rest of their existence, nothing compares to having, I don't know, broken one of your legs for the sake of saving one life. There is no comparison. That price is not at all something that you should be worrying about. The karma that you gain from doing that thing, even if it costs you an arm and a leg, and in this case, the final example is literally your whole life, is much more nicer than if you just rightfully, yeah, or unconsciously decided to ignore it. That's the concept of this Canto 196, I think it was. Yeah, Canto 196, yeah. So now let me ring something. Canto 197 now. So this we are not lying, we are so comfy. Canto 197. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, the son of Pandu addresses Markandeya once again, saying, tell us more about the greatness of the royal caste of kings. And Markandeya says, King Ashtaka, descendant of Viswamitra, conducted an Aswamedha Yagna, which many kings attended, including his brothers Paratardana and Basumanas, and Usinara's son Sibi. After the sacrifice was completed, Ashtaka was traveling in his chariot with his brothers when they met Narada coming towards them. They greeted the Devarishi and said to him, come, ride on our chariot with us. Narada agreed, that us too. Narada agreed, saying that us too, and climbed into the chariot. After paying their respects to Narada, one of the kings said to him, Oh, illustrious, I want to ask you something. The rishi gave him permission, and that king said, all four of us are blessed with long lives and every virtue. We shall, therefore, go to heaven and live there for a long time. Which of us will be the first to fall? The rishi Narada said, Astaka will be the first to come down. And the king who had asked the question said, for what reason? And the rishi answered, I lived for a few days in Astaka's palace. One day he took me out of the city in his chariot, and there I saw thousands of cows, all of different colors. I asked him whose they were, and he told me that they were cattle he had given away, thus praising himself. It is because of his answer that we will have to come down from Swarga. One of the kings again asked Narada, of the three of us who remain in heaven, who will be the first to fall to Bhumi? And the Rishi answered, Pratardana. When asked why, the Rishi related this incident. He said, I lived for some days in Pratardana's household. One day, when I was riding with him in his chariot, Abrahamana stopped him and asked for a horse. Pratardana said he would give him one when he returned home, and the Brahmana urged him to do it soon. Because the Brahmana was impatient, the king gave him the horse that was yoked to the right wheel of the chariot. We met another Brahmana who also wanted a horse. The king said the same thing to him, and in response to the Brahmana's impatience, gave him the horse that was yoked to his chariot's left wheel. The king continued on his way and soon came upon a third Brahmana, who asked him for a horse. The king gave him one more of his horses, and we proceeded on our journey. We met a fourth Brahmana who asked for a horse, and the king gave him the one that was yoked to front left of his chariot. A fifth Brahmana came to the king as we rode along and asked for a horse. This time the king said he would give him one as soon as he returned home. But because the Brahmana urged him to do this soon, the king gave him the last horse, yoking it and leaving the chariot horseless. The king picked up the yoke of his chariot himself and began to pull it along. As he pulled his chariot, he said, now I have nothing to give Brahmanas. The king had, no doubt, given all his horses away, but his charity was diminished somewhat by his less than wholehearted attitude. Therefore, he is the next to come down from heaven. Of the two kings who will remain in heaven, one asked, which of the two of us will fall first from heaven? Narada said, Vasumanas, and when the king asked for the reason, narrated another incident. Narada narrated another incident. He said, in course of my roving, I arrived at the home of Vasumanas at the time when the Brahmanas were performing the ceremony of Swadhyabhachana on a flower chariot. I came unseen into the king's presence, and after the Brahmanas had completed the ceremony, made myself visible. When I praised the chariot, the king said to me, Holy One, you have admired this chariot, so let it be yours. Sometime later, when I needed another chariot, I went once more to Vasumanas. Again, the king gave me the chariot I admired. I went to the king at Tirtham and admired one of his chariots. This time the king showed the chariot to his Brahmanas and, looking at me, said, Sublime sage, you have been generous in your praise, but did not give me the chariot. For this he will fall down from heaven. One of them said, one of us will go with you to heaven. Of the two of us, who will come down to earth, and who will continue to dwell in Swarga? Narada answered, saying, Sibi will be the one who stays in heaven, and I the one who falls. Wow! When asked the reason for this, Narada said, I am not the equal of Sivi. Hear why I say this. One day Abrahamana came to Sivi and said, "Oh Sivi, I come to you for food." Sivi responded, "Tell me what to do. I am yours to command." The Brahmana answered, "Kill your son, named Brihadagarbha, and cook him for my meal." I waited to see what would happen. Sibi killed his son and cooked his flesh. Then, putting the food into a serving dish, carried it on his head and went in search of the Brahmana. While he was looking for him, someone told him that the Brahmana he was searching for had gone to the city and, in a frenzy of rage, was setting fire to his house, to his treasury and arsenal, to the woman's apartments, and to the elephants and horses' stables. Sibi heard all this calmly. He went into his city, found the Brahmana, and said to him, "Holy One, the food is ready." The Brahmana became speechless with surprise and lowered his gaze in discomfiture. Discomfiture? What? Sibi, trying to please the Brahmana, said, "Holy One, here, eat this." The Brahmana glanced at Sibi and said, "Eat it yourself." Promptly, Sibi took the serving dish from atop his head and was about to eat, when the Brahmana caught hold of his hand and said, "You have conquered hunger. There is nothing that you will not give our Brahmana." Saying this, that Brahmana worshipped Sivi, and when Sivi looked up, he saw his son standing before him like a divine child, decked in ornaments, and a heavily fragrance emanating from his body. Finally, the Brahmana revealed his true self. He was none other than Bidhata, who had come in that guise to try the king. When Bidhata had left, the king's minister said to Sivi, "When you know everything, why did you do all this?" And Sivi answered, "It was not for fame, wealth, or from the desire to acquire material enjoyment that I did all this. What I did is not sinful. Therefore, I did it. The path taken by the righteous is praiseworthy, and I have always leaned towards the virtuous course of action." Narada said, "I know this instance of Sivi's goodness, and I have narrated it," says Markandeya. Wow, that's Canto 197? Yeah, we have like three, four conclusions inside of all of this. Let me, I think first and foremost, I need to read again most of this paragraph, or most of this canto. We have, let me see, receive information, all four of us blessed, yeah. None of the kings again ask, what? Okay. We're sort of basically observing. Yeah, that's what I was feeling when we were reading this. It's sort of repeating what we already talked about, like a quick rundown. Remember to not praise yourself for the things that you do, but for the tasks that you are obliged to do, that you are forced to participate in. You do not have the pleasure of taking pride in. That is something that removes you from heaven. First thing. Second thing, yeah, this is the one that I can't properly understand. The horseless. As he pulled, what was it? The king had no doubt given all his horses away, but his charity was diminished somewhat by his less than wholehearted attitude. Now I have nothing to give Brahmanas. I think it was something. Ah, okay. I think it's the context of this story is what makes it be understandable that it wasn't wholehearted. I think it was sort of obvious. The idea was when the possibility of discussing things is always open, you should be capable of reaching an agreement, even if it is for an obligation of yours, for something that you are forced to do, in order to not do it properly. You can do things in a proper manner. You can pay proper respect to your elders, to your superiors, and whatnot. And in this case, the idea was the imply the message was thus sorry was that this guy gave all his horses away and ended up without any horses on his chariot to give away in hopes of not having any more Brahmanas to confront and to give horses to. That's why this is said before the final clarification of this guy not being wholehearted is given. Now I have nothing to give Brahmanas. I think that's what makes it hard to properly interpret because there is not even any clarification of in which tone does this guy say it. Maybe he was relieved, maybe he was angry, maybe he was sad, maybe he was happy. We don't know. We have to assume, based on the less than wholehearted attitude, that he might have been happy when he said, "Oh yeah, you know what? Now I don't have any more horses to give to the Brahmanas. They are fact. They can't ask me for anything because I don't have anything." Haha. So yeah, that's this one makes sense. In that from that perspective, then it makes sense. It's like what would be a proper way to rephrase it? Acting coy or acting ignorant will yeah acting ignorant of things that you know will unavoidably lead to lesser results in the end is what also robs you of the enjoyment of heaven. The third case was this guy who didn't give Narada his chariot on a third time, or yeah, the third time he gave his chariots 2 times in a row. But the third time, the ritual itself, sorry, being explained once again, is Narada goes, he is invisible, observes how they make a chariot that is almost, I don't know even if it is perfect or not, but it's the implied thing is because the Brahmana can price it, it is good enough to give it away. Or it becomes good enough to give it away. So it is for these Kshatriyas forced to give it away. He didn't follow the proper rules. You know that there are rules implicit and that there are messages that you know you have to pay attention to. To read between the lines. If you decide to not read between the lines, even more, that's I guess why this whole explanation is being given. Because he did so before. He was capable of understanding that when Narada was explaining things or was praising his chariots before he wanted them, this third time he also wanted it. And he now acted once again, he was being willfully ignorant of the situation which was requesting him to do something. Therefore, he didn't fulfill his position. Therefore, he did something wrong. That's the whole story here. And I guess, yeah, unavoidably the last one is, and only those who get to have the most commitment, even if it means to do something that might sound morally incorrect, um, get to reap all the benefits. What's this? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I used particularly that word. Morality is not the same as being as things being aligned with or common sense. I guess is not what is the same thing as those that are as those things that are aligned with the divine beings and the rules that exist within our traditions and whatnot. Therefore, even if it does seem like an immoral thing to do, if one needs to sacrifice things that they hold dear, as long as it isn't sinful to do so, to fulfill the wishes of a superior of ours, we are obliged to do so. Yeah, I understand of this. I don't know. I sort of understand these stories, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't like this one. If way too much of yeah. Sorry, too much of a personal rain on that. But let me finish this thought at least. I don't like it. It's too much justifying the caste system and saying, oh yeah, you know what? All of these bad things are going to happen if you do not pay attention properly and do what you are forced to do in your own positions. You have to pay to us attention in a good way and do so while understanding that you can't in any way object to us, ignore us, not to do what we want, go against our orders, or look for your own self while doing so. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think so, man, but anyway, I understand the idea at least. So yeah, that's that's Canto once again 197. Let me ring something also. Okay, that's it. No more special water now. We don't have normal water to drink. So I don't. But yeah, that's as I said before. Canto 197. Let me continue with Canto 198. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, the Pandavas and the rishis then asked Markandeya, is there anybody blessed with longer life than you? And Markandeya answers them, there was a Rishi named Indradyumna whose virtue had diminished. He fell from heaven, crying, all that I have achieved is for nothing. He came to me and asked, do you recognize me? I said, from our anxiety to acquire religious merit, we do not have permanent homes. We stay for only one night in any village or town. People like us, therefore, cannot possibly know who you are. The fasts and vows we observe make us physically weak and unable to follow any worldly pursuits. He then asked me, is there anyone who has a longer life than you? I answered him, on Himavat mountain there lived an owl by the name of Pravarakarna. He is older than me. He may know you. The place on Himavat where he lives is very far from here. At this, Indradyumna became a horse and carried me to where that owl lived. And the king asked the owl, do you know me? The owl reflected for a moment and then said to the king, no, I do not know you. Indradyumna asked the owl, is there anyone who is older than you? And the owl answered, there is a lake called Indradyumna, in which there lives a crane named Nadisanka. He is older than me. Ask him. King Indradyumna took me and the owl to that lake where the crane Nadisanka lived, and we asked, do you know Raja Indradyumna? The crane thought for a while and then said, I do not know King Indradyumna. We asked the crane, is there anyone who is older than you? And he answered, there lives in this very lake a tortoise named Akupara. He is older than me. He may know something of this king. Ask Akupara. The crane spoke to the tortoise and said, we want to ask you something. Please come to where we are. Obligingly, the tortoise came out of the lake to the bank where we were, and we asked him, do you know this king Indradyumna? The tortoise reflected for a moment. His heart was moved and his eyes filled with tears. He trembled all over with powerful emotion and nearly lost consciousness. He showed his hands and said, do I not know this king? He has planted the sacrificial stake 1,000 times for kindling the sacrificial fire. It is the cows that this king gave to Brahmanas that were used to excavate this lake. I have lived here ever since. No sooner had the tortoise said this than a chariot flew down from heaven, and a voice spoke from the skies to Indradyumna. Come, take your rightful place in heaven. Great are your achievements. Come joyfully to your place in Swarga. Listen to these slokas, reports of virtuous actions spread over the earth and reach heaven. The doer of these actions stays in heaven for as long as these reports last. The man whose evil deeds are talked about will descend to the lowest regions and live there for as long as this talk goes on. Therefore, a man who wants to go to Swarga should be honorable and ethical. He should shun evil and seek a refuge in goodness. Hearing these words, the king said, "Let the chariot remain here and take these old people back to where they came from." Then he took the owl and me back to our homes and returned to his own place. Because I have lived for so long, I saw all this, says Markandeya. Markandeya tells these stories to the Pandavas, and when he has finished, they say to him, "Blessings be upon you. You did the right thing to make Indradyumna regain his rightful place in Swargaloka, from which he had fallen." Markandeya says, "Similarly, Devaki's son Krishna raised Raharishi and Harika, who had sunk into Naraka, and restored him to Swarga." Okay, that's come to 198, I think. Yeah, I think everything else is just what's the proper word on English? Medium accessories, tools to tell this one. This is the idea. The whole canto has only this idea. Reports of virtuous actions spread over the earth and reach heaven. The doer of these actions stays in heaven for as long as these reports last. The men whose evil deeds are talked about will descend to the lowest regions and live there for as long as this talk goes on. Therefore, a man who wants to go to Swarga should be honorable and ethical. He should shun evil and seek refuge in goodness. The idea itself is clear. Any person who is talked about after their death gets to remain in heaven, gets to live in Swarga, gets to enjoy their whole accumulated karma in the afterlife, so to speak. Oh, for forgetfulness, I think it is the proper name of that, or being forgotten, basically, leads to being eliminated from those places. In this case, is the goal is to possess enough good deeds important enough so that we might as well never be forgotten. I guess that is the point in this case, and also unavoidably to have important enough good actions so that we remain in Swarga and not in lowest regions. What were the lowest regions? I don't remember. Was it Indra? Indra Loka? No. Deva Loka? No. Lokapala, I think it is the bad place. I think. Anyway, the other classification doesn't matter. The point is, yeah, do things that are important enough so that you are always remembered or you can always enjoy heavens. That's the idea, basically. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's count 198. Now, how are we doing? Because I have something to say. I think I need like a 5 minute break or something like that. Uh, I need to stand up. I need to actually stand up. That's the issue. I I don't know. I don't think I have been sitting all that long today, but yeah, I am hurting. I guess probably it's also the sitting upright position that makes it heavier on the sitting parts, I guess. But yeah. No, wait. I forgot that my microphone is detachable from the PC. So yeah, from the PC now, from the stand, I didn't need to actually I didn't need to actually take a break. I just needed to stand up. Sorry. Ah man, what a thing. But yeah, that whole last canto. I don't know if I'm happy with that one. I think. Hmm. Is there any other thing to say to point out from there? Probably. I should try to look into it. I hope there is something else, but I don't know. Sometimes that's always, I guess, my excuse. Some ideas are not or some cantos really do not have that many deep ideas, that multiple interpretations. I was already Once I was reading that whole canto, I was starting to understand that the conclusion was going to be, oh yeah, you need to be remembered. That's what matters. That's what happen. That's what happens, and that's what you need to have. You know. So if you don't have that, you're going to be suffering. You need to have something that allows you to not suffer. That's the whole thing, and that's what you should. Yeah, that's what you should be looking after, basically. But I don't know. I think it's sort of complicated, probably. Also, why did I leave this scene? I don't know. Sorry for that. It was yeah, because I was about to actually go into a pause or something like that. Sorry. Uh, but yeah, that's man. What I think so far we are doing good enough. And yeah, I don't know. The real question is, can I actually endure like 1 more hour of this? I should actually try to. We only did two at the reality is, if we move so incredibly slowly, we're not going to end. Never. It will be like a 3 more years, 4 more years of reading this at this pace. So that's also why, in this case, we have to worry about duration and reading pace and whatnot. And also, so far, once again, we sort of have the blessing of not having to read anything truly dense, truly complex. Otherwise, it would be impossible to move. What was it? Last time we read like 10 pages, 2 hours, or even less, because some of them have way too much stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Let me. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry for the pause, I guess. I unavoidably it's necessary to take these sort of pauses. I guess at some point, yeah, let me say it like this. I think I always realized I needed to stand. From a personal perspective, I always realized I had these moments in which uh, I feel like I needed to stand up. And in many cases, at least personally, I end up ignoring it. But after enough practice, I realized it's actually better to, yeah, pay attention to it and stand up, even if it is for 3, 4, 5 minutes, rather than to keep sitting down for the entire next hour and to end up in pain for the rest of the day because of that. I think it's a good trade off. Even more also because it doesn't even need to be, oh yeah, 5, 10 minutes standing up. It can be like just 5 or even less, while also making sure that I stretch a little bit, that whole thing of mobility, flexibility, and whatnot. No, not such a complicated thing, but certainly a hard to properly point at one, I guess. Anyway, yeah, let me now properly sit down and once again give me like a second or so that I get to accommodate everything in 1 second. Test. Are we fine? No, no. I need to find my whole position again. Fuck. Around here it should be fine, yeah? Right? Okay. We are so comfy. Anyway, let me see. Yeah, here we are. There I was. Let me continue. Let me continue. Sorry for that tiny pause, I guess. Um, Continuing. Come to. Oh, probably. I don't think we are going to do like an entire extra hour, but take into consideration that we start on page 70 at the very least. Do 20 entire pages is nice. Probably like, I don't know, 25 or so should be a goal. Should be good enough. I remember, yeah, at some point I tried to do all of that math. I think it was something along those lines of if we take only X amount of time, basically the book is 7,000 pages. If we can do like 7, we are doing 0.1. If we do like 14, we are doing like 0.2. If we do 21, we are doing 0.3% of the book per reading. So it will mean that we will need like, how much? 300? Or, yeah, so, sort of like 300 readings or so to read the whole book, something like that. Anyway, let me continue. Come to 199. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, Yudhishthira hears the illustrious Markandeya story of how the Maharishi Indradyumna regained his place in heaven, and he asks the Muni, Mahamuni, how shall a man practice charity in order to gain admission into Indraloka? It is by practicing charity while living a domestic life, in boyhood, in youth, or in old age that he goes to Indraloka. Oh, tell me what each is worth. Markandeya says there are 4 kinds of life that are useless. So too, there are 16 kinds of charity that are futile. These men live in vain. He who has no son, he who is corrupt, he who lives on food made by others, he who cooks but does not give fears to the devas, Peters and Sadasyas. The first 2 kinds of gifts that are worthless are these, those given to a sinful person and those which have been earned wrongfully. The gift to an adharmic Brahmana, to a thief, to a teacher who is false. These gifts are worthless too. Also worthless are gifts to a liar, to a sinner, to an ingrate, to one who officiates at sacrifices performed by all classes of people in a village, to one who teaches the Vedas for a fee, to a Brahmana who cooks for a Sudra, and to a Brahmana who does not follow the Svadharma of a Brahmana. The gift given to one who has married a girl after she has attained puberty, to a female. What? To one who plays with snakes, and to one who is employed in a menial job is also in vain. These 16 kinds of charity earn the giver no punya. Wait a second. Uh, I just want to. I guess, yeah. I just want to make sure this is also menial job one. Snakes, two. Is female to a female? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, no, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Holy shit. Wow. Anyway, I guess No, anyway, what a good line. What a fucking ah. Anyway, sorry. Continuing. The distressed man who gives from fear or anger enjoys the merit of such gifts while he is in the womb of his mother. The man who makes gifts to Brahmanas under circumstances other than those listed earlier enjoys the fruit of his charity in old age. Therefore, O king, the man who wishes to pave his way to heaven should, under all circumstances, give everything he wants to give away to Brahmanas. Yudhishthira says, go to Brahmanas accepting gifts from people of all four castes, save others as well as themselves. Markandeya says, they do this by japa, mantras, homa, and the study of the Vedas. With these as tools, the Brahmanas construct a Vedic boat in which they rescue others and themselves from the sea of samsara. The gods are placed with a man who gratifies the Brahmanas and a man made in Swarga at the command of a Brahmana. You will, Rahan, certainly gain the place of everlasting bliss by virtue of your worship of the Pitters and Devas, and by your reverence for Brahmanas, even though your body may be filled with contagious phlegm and be dull and lethargic. He who wants to be virtuous and find Swarga should worship Brahmanas. He should feed Brahmanas with care during Sradhas. On such occasions, he should exclude those that are cursed or have lapsed in dharmic ways, who are very fair or very dark, have dirty nails, are lepers, are deceitful, have been born illegitimately to widows or married women, and who live as mercenaries. An impure Saratya consumes the performer like fire consuming fuel. If blind, deaf, or dumb people are to be employed at Saratyas, care should be taken to employ them along with Brahmanas conversant with the Vedas. Yudhishthira, listen now while I tell you who the deserving recipients of your gifts are. He that knows all the Vedas shall give only to a Brahmana who has merited the ability to save himself and the giver, for only such a man can be thought of as truly able. Son of Prita, the attentive care of Sadasyas gratifies the sacred fire more than does the pouring of ghee or offering of flowers and sandalwood paste. Therefore, strive to look after your guests, Rahan. They that give guests water to wash their feet, butter to rub on their tall legs, light during the night, food and shelter, do not have to face Yama. The removal of the worship of flowers offered to the gods, the removal of the remnants of a Brahmana's feast, waiting upon a Brahmana with scented paste, and the massaging of a Brahmana's limbs are each more deserving of merit than the gift of cows. The gift of a Kapila cow saves the giver from sin, so foremost among kings, one should give the Kapila cow decked with ornaments to Brahmanas. Mahabharata, these are the kinds of people one should give to a good, sorry, a person of good lineage who has knowledge of the Vedas, the poor, a grihasta, a householder burdened with the care of a wife and children, a person that worships the sacred fire every day, and a person who has not done you any service. You shall always give to such people. What? Not to them that have wealth, for there is no point in it. Bharatotama, one cow must be given to one Brahmana, and not to be shared by many, because if this share cow is sold, the giver's family will suffer for 3 generations. Such a gift will definitely not save the giver or the recipient. Giving 80 ratis of pure gold is as beneficial as giving 100 pieces of gold into eternity. He that gives away a strong bull capable of drawing the plough is rescued from all difficulties and finally goes to Swarga. He that gives away land to a learned Brahmana has all his desires fulfilled. That man who, when asked by an exhausted traveler with tall legs and dusty feet, tells him the name of a person who will feed him, gains as much merit as the giver of food himself. Therefore, give food rather than any other gift. There is no better gift than food. A man who, according to his means, gives well cooked and clean food to Brahmanas earns the companionship of Prajapati Brahma. There is nothing superior to food. Thus, food is seen as the first and best of all things to give away. It has been said that food is Brahma. Prajapati is regarded as the year, and the year is Yagna. Everything begins with sacrifice, for it is from sacrifice that all creatures, animate and inanimate, are created. That is why food is the foremost of all things. They who give legs, tongues, words, shelter, and food, they who speak sweetly to everyone will not hear Yama's accusing voice. Bhumi Devi, the earth is pleased with him who gives wealth, earned by his labor, and the rise to pious Brahmanas, and the Shisha awares him with wealth. The giver of foods walks first, next the speaker of truth, and next the one who does not beg, although all three go to the same place. Dear God, hearing all this, Yudhishthira, his brothers are curious and ask the high soul Markandeya. Great Muni, how far is Yamaloka from Bhumi? How large is it? How do men escape going there? Oh, tell us all this, Markandeya says. O king, most virtuous of men, your question is related to a great mystery. It is sacred and treasured by the rishis, as it has to do with Dharma. I will tell you about it. The distance of Yama's world from the world of men is 86,000 yohanas. The way is over waterless space and is terrible to behold. Nowhere on that road is there the shade of a tree, any water, or any resting place for the weary traveler. Men, women, and all beings that live on earth are forcibly led along this way by Yama's messengers, his dutas. Yama's servitors and they that have given horses and other means of transport to Brahmanas ride on horseback and on chariots. They that have given parasols and have parasols to protect them from the sun's rays as they walk to Yamaloka. They that have given food will go without hunger, while they that have not go hungry. They that have given clothes go clothed, while they that have not go naked. They that have given gold go cheerfully, decked in ornaments. They that have given land proceed with all their needs gratified, and they that have given grain go along the way without any wants. They that have given houses go on chariots. Those men that have given something to drink go cheerfully, unaffected by thirst, and they that have given light go happily, the way lit before them. They that have given cows go in good cheer, freed from all their sins. They that have fasted for a month go in a craft drawn by swans, and they that have fasted for 6 nights ride on blithe chariots drawn by peacocks. And Pandava, he that has fasted 3 days on only one meal, goes to a realm free from disease and anxiety. Good evening, Mr. Dar Salaryman. I hope you're well. Water possesses the uncanny quality of creating happiness in Yamaloka, and they that give water on earth find themselves by a river there, named Pushpodaka. These people drink cool and ambrosial draughts from that stream, while they that are evil only have recourse to flowing push. That river serves all purposes. Therefore, Rahan, show due reverence to the Brahmanas that are with you. His legs fatigued by the distance he has walked, his body covered in the dust of the highway, the wayfarer asks for the name of the man who will give him food, and goes expectantly to his house. Attend to him reverently because he is a guest and a Brahmana. Indra and the Devas walk behind him, and if he is cared for, they are pleased. If he is not, the celestials and their lord are unhappy. Therefore, O best of kings, worship these Brahmanas. I have spoken on 100 subjects. What else do you want to hear from me? Also, sorry, I didn't say that. I hope you're well. I hope you are not as tired. Yudhishthira says, Mahamuni, you know all there is to know about Dharma and Punya. I do not want to stop listening to you speak of them. Markandeya says, Rahan, I will now tell of another sacred subject of eternal interest, which is capable of washing away all sins. Listen attentively to me. Bharatutama, merit equal to that of giving away a Kapila cow in the theatre called Gesta Pushkara accrues from washing the feet of Brahmanas. Also, welcome, Clamshell. Uh, thank you. As long as the earth is wet with water in which a Brahmana's feet have been washed, so long do the beaters drink water out of lotus leaf cups. If a guest is welcomed, the deities of fire become glad, and if he is offered a seat, it is the god of the 100 sacrifices who is gratified. If a guest's feet are washed, it is the beaters who are delighted, and if he is fed, it is Prajapati who is pleased. One should wholeheartedly give away a cow while she is giving birth. When the feet and head of her calf are visible, and before her delivery is complete, a cow with her calf in the air, in the course of falling from the womb to the earth, is equal to the Bhumi Devi herself. The man who gives away such a cow reaps the benefit of giving away the earth, and he is adored in Swarga for as many thousands of yugas as there are hairs on the bodies of the cow and her young one together. Bharata, the man who, having accepted a gift, gives it away immediately to a good and honest person, gains great merit. Indeed, he reaps the benefit of giving away all the earth with her oceans and seas, caves and mountains, forests and woods. A Brahmana who eats in silence, keeping his hands between his knees, gains the ability to save others. A Brahmana who abstains from drink and is regarded as faultless, and who reads the Samhitas every day, also gains this ability. Butter and food given to a Brahmana who is learned in the Vedas are as beneficial as when they were poured into fire. A Brahmana's weapon is anger, not arms made of iron. A Brahmana can kill a man with his anger as effectively as Indra slays Asuras with his Bhakra. Markandeya's discourse on the twin themes of Punya and Dharma is finished, and the munis of the Naimisha Bana are filled with joy on having heard it. They are freed from grief and anger by listening to it, and also purged of their sins and liberated from the cycle of birth under birth. Yudhishthira asks, what does a Brahmana have to do to become and remain pure? I want to hear about this from you, most virtuous one. Markandeya answers, there are three kinds of purity: purity of speech, purity of action, and purity achieved through the use of water. The man who practices all three surely attains Swarga. Brahmanas who adore the goddess Sandhya in the morning and evening and meditatively recite the sacred mantra of Gayatri, who is the mother of the Vedas, are sanctified by her and freed from all their sins. Even if they accept the very earth and her oceans as gifts, they do not suffer the least unhappiness. Inauspicious what? Inauspicious conjunctions of the sun and other planets become favorable, and auspicious conjunctions become even more propitious to such Brahmanas because of their conduct. Fearsome Rakshasas, gigantic and savage, that subsist on the flesh of animals, are unable to defeat the Brahmanas who practice these purifications. These Brahmanas are like blazing fires. They do not acquire the blemishes of teaching of officiating at sacrifices, and of accepting gifts from others. Whether Brahmana knows the Vedas or is ignorant of them, whether his soul is pure or tainted, you should never insult him, for Brahmanas are like fire, just as the fire that burns on a funeral pyre is not considered impure despite its function. So too is the Brahmana considered pure even if he is ignorant. He is great and godlike. Cities that are adorned with numerous walls, gates, and palaces are bereft of beauty if they have no Brahmanas in them. O king, only a city where Brahmanas, accomplished in the Vedas, duly observing their dharmic duties and possessing learning and tapasya Shakti reside, is really a city. Son of Prita, any place where learned Brahmanas live, be it a forest or pasture, is a city. Why? That place becomes a tirtha. By going to a king who offers protection and to a Brahmana of ascetic merit, and by offering worship to both, a man instantly gets rid of his sins. Wise and learned men have said that bathing in the sacred theatres, reciting the names of the great rishis, and talking with good and pure hearted people are all acts worthy of praise. They that are virtuous and honest consider themselves sanctified by the holiness of companionship of others like themselves, satsanga, and by the holy water of pure and godly conversations. The carrying of three staffs, the vow of silence, matted hair, the shaving of the head, the wearing of bark and deer skin, the practice of vows and ablutions, the worship of fire, living in the forest, the emanciation of the body, all these are useless if the heart is not pure. The indulgence of the six senses is easy if purity is its aim. Abstinence, however, which is difficult anyway, is even more so without purity of aim. Rahan, among the six senses, the mind is the most dangerous. Through tapasya is purity of heart and soul, thought, word, and action, rather than fasting and penances that result in a wasted body. He who has no compassion for relatives cannot be freed from sin, even if his body is pure. His hard heartedness is the enemy of his asceticism. I say again, asceticism is not mere abstinence from worldly pleasures. He that is always pure and decked with virtue, he that practices kindness all his life, is a Muni, even though he might lead a domestic life. Such a man is purged of all his sins. Fasts and other penances cannot destroy the effect of sin, however much they may weaken and dry up the body. The man whose heart is without pieties suffers torture by undergoing penances in ignorance of their meaning. He is never freed from sin by such hollow acts of reparation. The fire he worships does not consume his sins. It is only piety and virtue that give man access to the hallowed regions and makes fasts and vows effective. Subsistence on fruit and roots, the vow of silence, living on mere air, tonsuring the head, giving up a fixed home, wearing matted looks, sleeping out in the open, daily fast, the worship of fire, immersion in water and lying on bare ground, these by themselves cannot produce results. Only they that have true piety succeed through knowledge and their actions in conquering disease, decrepitude, and death, and acquire spiritual elevation. Just as seeds that have been scorched by fire do not sprout, so discomforts that have been burned by knowledge cannot affect the soul. The body is like a block of wood, and when destitute of a soul, is as impermanent as foam in the ocean. The man who catches a glimpse of the universality of his own soul by reciting one or even half a line of the Vedas needs nothing more. Some succeed in identifying themselves with Brahman, the Supreme Soul, from just two letters, and some from hundreds and thousands of verses. The knowledge of one's identity with the Parabrahman is the route to salvation. Men of ancient times who were distinguished for their knowledge have said that a man who is plagued by doubt can never attain bliss in this world or the next. The belief of oneness with Brahman is the way to mukti. It that knows the true meaning of the Vedas and understands their true purpose fears mere Vedic ritual, like a man at the side of a forest fire. Give up dry debate, take up the study of sacred knowledge by the way of Sruti, recitations of sacred sounds, and Smriti, reading sacred texts. Use your intellect and seek knowledge of the eternal Brahman. One's search becomes futile from lack of means. Therefore, one should carefully strive to obtain that knowledge with the help of the Vedas. The Vedas are Brahman, they are his body. They are the truth. The soul that is restricted by its bodily confines cannot know him in whom all the Vedas merge. He can only be known by the pure intellect. The existence of the gods, as taught in the Vedas, the power of action and physical prowess, are distinct in every yuga. One can gain freedom from these by purifying the senses, so the suspension of sensory function is through fasting. One may attain Swarga through asceticism. One may obtain objects of enjoyment by the practice of charity, and one may purge himself of his sins by bathing in hallowed tirthas. But it is knowledge alone that can confer complete emancipation. When Markandeya has said this, Yudhishthira of great renown says, "Oh, illustrious one, I want to hear about the laws that govern charity, which make it meritorious." Markandeya says, "Yudhishthira, I highly regard the laws of charity that you wish to hear from me. Listen, man, listen now to their mysteries as expounded in the Sruti and the Smritis. A man who performs as Radha in the place called Gahachaya at a spot found by the lips of the Aswatha tree enjoys its rewards. Yudhishthira, for 100,000 kalpas, he that establishes a dharmasala and appoints a person to look after all who come there is crowned with the benefits of all the sacrifices. He that gives away a horse at a tirtha where the current of the stream runs in the opposite direction to the river's course gains unending merit. The guest that comes to one's house for food is none other than Indra himself. If he is entertained with food, Indra bestows an excellent and inexhaustible reward, just as boats take men safely across the water. The givers I have spoken of are saved from retribution for their sins. What is given to Brahmanas produces, like a gift of gourds, endless punya. A gift given on particular phases of the moon's orbit results in twice the reward as on other days. Given in a certain season, it is 10 times as powerful, and in a particular year, its value is increased 100-fold. The rewards earned by a gift made on the last day of the last month of the year never expire. The gift made on the days of the sun's solstice, one made on the last day of the sun's path through the constellations of Tula, Mesha, Mithuna, Kanya, and Mina, and the gift made during eclipses of the moon and the sun reap limitless merit. Learned men say that gifts given during the seasons produce merit that is multiplied 10 times, 100 times if made during the cusp of the seasons, and 1,000 times if made when Rahu appears in the sky, and greater than at any other time. The gift made on the last day of the sun's course through Tula and Mesha produces merit that never decreases. Rahan, one cannot enjoy owning land unless one gives away land. And one cannot enjoy traveling in chariots and other vehicles unless one gives these away. A person is reborn with the enjoyment of the goals he had in mind at the time he gave a gift to Abrahamana. Gold has sprung from fire, the earth from Vishnu, and the gold from the sun. So he that gives away gold, land, and cows reaches the abodes of Agni, Vishnu, and Surya Deva. Nothing is as eternal as the act of giving a gift. What can be more auspicious in all the three worlds? That is why, O king, those of fathomless intelligence say that there is nothing nobler or greater in the three lokas as a gift. And also, the constellations are Libra, Aries, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. I want to click that. I feel clicking that. Thula, Mesha, Mithuna, Kanya, and Mina. Okay. Eh, muchísimo texto. Sorry. I need to drink something. Oh my god. It was like, how much? 3 pages? 4 pages? Man. How long was this one canto? What was it? Canto 199, I think? Yeah. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pages. Okay. Can I say anything? Man, I think it's way too much to try to have any conclusion. Also, I was thinking about it. I don't even know if I said hi, Clamson. I hope you're well. I know I said thank you. I don't know if I properly said hey, welcome. My God. Um, why this thing was all of this before this were 1 page long cantos, two at best, 9 pages out of nowhere. Anyway, what is? I don't know. I guess to I should really wrap up this whole canto more than anything else. I guess it tells out way too many things. It has in the middle of it like wonderful observations, amazing ways of describing things in terms of how being both generous and also utilizing the intellect liberates the soul in a certain way. How, yeah, it out of nowhere for some reason, just one canto talks about the Atman, the Brahma, the Vedas, being a properly auspicious and generous giver, gifter, and all of that stuff. I don't know. I think, yeah, it's complicated. It's easy to say it's complicated, but it's complicated. I think it's mostly related to, let's say like this, Canto 199 um, gets to properly highlight why in itself the whole ritual of gifting stuff is so important. In yeah, okay. Let's say like this. Let's say like this. In a certain way, while the human being, the normal human being, the normal person has the responsibility of giving their worldly possessions, what the Brahmana has as a responsibility is the need to give away their knowledge. That is why not only it is being discussed directly, both giving worldly things and the knowledge obtained out the different sacred texts, I guess, but also the capacity of understanding that both of those are things that any human being is required to do. The obligation of giving something away is what brings benefits to the soul. The concept itself is explained inside all of this. I'm not going to explain it again. And, but yeah, it's in that sense also why it's so important to be capable of saying, yeah, I can play my role of I will give away something. I will gift a little bit of what I possess. Also, I want to particularly highlight something. Let me try to find it. I think it's the last page or so. One cannot enjoy owning land unless one gives away land, and one cannot enjoy traveling in chariots and other vehicles unless one gives this away. A person is reborn with the enjoyment of the goals he had in mind at the time he gives a gift to a Brahmana. I don't particularly care about the Brahmana, but I think it's the idea of once I can. Ah! It, I okay, I get it. Worldly detachment. Uh, loss as a way to be capable of finally getting to enjoy things. Man, okay, I get it. The idea is this whole tradition that's also why, to some degree, Buddhism is very similar to Hinduism. The capacity to detach yourself from the things by departing promptly or early from all this stuff that keeps you bound to reality. Therefore, you cannot truly enjoy something unless you're capable of letting it go first. That whole idea of, okay, I have to renounce my worldly attachments. I have to accept that whatever I am asked for to give to our Brahmana, I should be capable of giving away. That's why I guess that's the importance that is contained within all of this. That yeah, if I can part with anything that I possess, it means that I do enjoy whatever is it that I have in my hands. Yeah, I wasn't. I don't know if I have thought about it in that sense. Why gifting stuff is so important, but yeah, I think it makes sense from that perspective. Hmm. Yeah, also, I want to observe. I won't say, let's read the next canto. I want to see how long they are. Only 3 pages. Okay, that's better. Wait, let me read something after that. Yeah, continue. No, why was it so long, brother? Was there any need to actually make it so long? Anyway, Canto 200. Markandeya Samasya Parava continued. Vaisampayana said, Glorious king, Yudhishthira hears from Markandeya the story of how Indradyumna attains heaven and asks that magnificent, blemishless Muni, Virtuous one, you know the entire pantheon of the devas, the Navas and the Rakshasas. You can trace the genealogies of kings and the rishis. Brahmanotama. There is nothing in this world that you do not know. You also know Mahamuni, many delightful stories about Manavas, Nagas, and Rakshasas, about Devas, Gandharvas, and Yakshas, and about Kinnaras and Apsaras. I long to hear these from you. Why did Kubalaswa, the unvanquished king of the Ixbakus, change his name to Dundumara, best of the descendants of Varegu? I want to know in detail how and why the intelligent Kubalaswa changed his name. The Maharishi Markandeya begins the tale of Dundun. Is it Dun or Dun? Mm-mm. I guess Dunaro. Dun Dumara. Markandeya says, Yudhishthira, listen and I will tell you everything you wish to know. The story of Dundumara is a moral one, so listen to how King Kuvalaswa of the Ikshbaku dynasty came to be known as Dundumara. Mahabharata, there was a well-known rishi named Utanka, whose asrama was set in a charming wilderness. Rishi Utanka performed a most severe tapasya, and for countless years, with the aim of obtaining the favor of Vishnu, pleased with his tapasya, the illustrious Lord Vishnu appeared before Utanka. Beholding the deity, the rishi in all humility began to glorify him with hymns of adoration. He said, "O efulgent Lord, you have made all creatures, the Devas, Asuras, and Manavas, all things mobile or immobile, even Brahma himself, the Vedas, and all things that can be known. The sky is your head, O Lord, the sun and the moon are your eyes. You who know no decay, the winds are your breath and fire your energy. The direction of the horizon are your arms, and the great ocean your belly. The hills and mountains are your thighs, and the air your hips. Mudkusudana. The earth makes up your feet and plants the hair on your body. O Lord, Indra, Soma, Agni, and Varuna, indeed, all the Devas, Asuras, and great Nagas humbly wait upon you and sing hymns in adoration of you. Lord of the universe, you pervade all creation. The great rishis of immense Tehas endlessly plants in dhyana always worship you. When you are gratified, the universe is at peace. When you are angry, terror grips every soul. You are the dispeller of fear. You are the one, Supreme Purusha. You are the cause of happiness of gods and men. Oh Lord, you have covered the three lokas with three strides. It was you that destroyed the Asuras when they were at the height of their power. It is your prowess that brought peace and joy to the Devas. It was your anger that destroyed hundreds of great Daitya lords. You are the maker and destroyer of the world's creatures. It is by worshipping you that the gods attain felicity. Thus Yudhishthira, the high-souled Utanka, praised the Lord of the senses. And Vishnu said to Utanka, I am pleased with you. Ask for a boon. Utanka said, seeing you before me is the greatest boon. Hari, eternal being, Lord of the universe. Vishnu said, I am happy with your lack of desires and with your devotion. Anavattama, best of men. But, Brahmana, you must let me give you some boon. When Lord Vishnu insisted, Utanka said with folded hands, "Oh, illustrious lotus leaf-eyed Lord, if you are pleased with me, then let my heart always dwell on virtue, truth, and contentment, and let my heart always turn to you in bhakti." Hearing Utanka words, Vishnu said, "Brahmana, by my grace, I grant all you have asked for. I also bestow on you yogic power, with which you shall achieve a great thing for the Devas as well as for all the inhabitants of Triloka. Even as I speak, a great Asura named Dundu is performing a tapasya of fierce austerity with the object of destroying the three worlds. Let me tell you, who will kill that Asura? A king of invincible energy and prowess will be born into the Ikshbaku line. He will be known by the name of Brihadaswa. He will have a son named Kubalaswa, who will be endowed with great piety, self-control, and fame. This best of kings will be blessed with yogic power that springs from me, and commanded by you, O Rishi, that king will be the slayer of the Ashura Dundu. Having spoken to the Brahmana, Vishnu vanished. Okay, Canto 200? Is there an idea? Uh, isn't it mostly mythology in this one? Isn't it? I guess. Yeah, it's mostly how the incomprehensible being of um what's his name? Harry, the incomprehensible existence of Harry is what is being discussed the most, but I don't know, the need to let the gods give always something to us mortals, like, I don't know if that is a proper thing to say that, yeah, everyone should be capable of possessing a certain objective of desire, not in terms of things that we must desire, but rather things that we should be capable of saying, if we're asked to name them, to say that we want something. That's why the insistence of even more the primal goal on, okay, what do you want? What can I give you? Allow me to give you something. You can't not let me go without giving you something. It is not possible for me to do so. I think that is sort of the message. I think that is the implicit idea, but that's. I don't really know if that is it. I guess. Is it. Let me see. King. Pancreas, Tio, Mahamuni. Which was it? Markandeya, Yudhishthira, listen. Bharata. One known reason named Utanka, whose asrama was set in a charming wilderness, performed an Tapasya for countless years with the aim of obtaining the favor of Vishnu. Why? Yeah, there are like no details on who Utanka is. Why? I think it's. I sort of lack context. I think it's related to how I have to assume way too many things. Anyway, we are here to try to do whatever we can. The conclusion, assuming stuff, is anyone who is capable of charming the gods to give them something is required to be capable of naming any one object of desire. The point in itself is not because we shall always have things that we want, but rather because when in, let's say, this direct way of conversing with divinity that the Hindus talk about, that's in that sort of conversation, it's necessary to be capable of recognizing in the face of the divine what matters to us, what is it that we actually want. If we do not have any sort of desire, not an attachment, but rather a true desire or a true interest. If we have no goal, that's the other word. If we don't have a goal, we cannot satisfy the goals properly. I think that's still the conclusion. The same thing that I already said before. But why? Good question. I don't know why. And even then, once again, I have to assume that's the point here because this isn't at all like what's this story about. This is more like, yeah, setting up for this other story. Anyway, let me see. I will. I don't want to read like 7 more pages in a row. Okay, thank you. Only two. I can do this. I can actually. I have confidence. If it's only two, I can do it. But yeah, let me continue. Canto 201. Markandeya Samasya Parava continued. Markandeya says, O king, after the death of this king of the Ikshvakus, a king of great Dharma named Sasada ascended the throne of Ayodhya and ruled the earth. Sasada's son was the powerful Kak- what? Kakutska. Kakutska. Man. Kakutska. I no. I I hate this language. Sorry. Kakutsta, and Kakutsta's son was Ananes. Let me let me try again. Sasada's son was the powerful Kakutsta, and Kakutsta's son was Anenasa. Anenasa had a son named Prithu, whose son was Biswa Gaswa, and from Biswa Gaswa was born Adari. Okay, Adari's son was Yuvanaswa. Sarabasta was born to Yuvanaswa, and it was he who built the city of Saravasti. Saravasta had a son named Brihadaswa, to whom Kubalaswa was born. Kubalaswa had 21,000 sons, and all these sons were fierce and powerful, and mastered every skill. Kubalaswa himself excelled his father in every way, and when time came, his father Brihadaswa installed the brave and exemplary prince on the throne. Having handed over the throne to his son, King Brihadaswa retired to a life of sannyasa in the forest. Markandeya continues. When Raharishi Brihadaswa was preparing to retire into Devana, Utanka heard of it, and the sight of the dazzling Tejas and immeasurable soul came to see Brihadaswa. That best of Kshatriyas, Rishi Utanka tried to persuade him to refrain from taking sannyasa. Utanka said, "Oh king, it is your dharma to protect your people. Free us from our anxieties by being our protector, because you're a great soul. The earth will be safe under your guardianship. It is not right for you to take up sannyasa in the forest. Great merit attaches to the karma of protecting the people of this world. Punya which you cannot have by living as a sannyasin. Turn your heart away from this course." Brihataswa, the merit that the Harishis of all acquired was incomparable. The king shall always protect his subjects, and it is what you shall do. Bhumipala, I cannot perform my tapasya in peace these days. Near my asrama there is a desert named Uhalaka, which is flat and arid and many yohanas in length and width. In it dwells Dunthu, Adanava chieftain, the son of Mathu and Kaitapha, is savage and powerful and lives under the ground. You must first kill him before taking to sannyasa. Yashura is quiet now because he is engaged in the most fierce tapasya. His aim is to rule over the devas as well as the three worlds because of a boon granted to him by the Pitamaha, the grandsire of all creatures. One who cannot be slain by daityas, rakshasas, or gandharvas. Kill him, Rahan, and be blessed. Set your heart firmly on this deed. By killing the Ashura, you will achieve unequaled greatness and enjoy undying fame. When, at the end of every year, that malignant Ashura who lies covered with sand wakes up and begins to breathe, all the earth with her mountains, forests, and woods begins to tremble. His breath blows up clouds of sand and shrouds the sun. For 7 days without let does Bhumi Devi quake. Sparks and tongues of smoky flame are everywhere. O king, I have no peace in my asrama. Kill Dunhu for the good of the world. When that Ashura dies, the three lokas will have peace and joy again. I believe that you have the power to kill this Ashura. Vishnu will infuse you with his energy. For long ago, Vishnu swore that the king who killed this great demon will have Narayana's own strength to use. Rahan, imbued with Vishnu's inexorable might, slay the savage Daitya. Dun who is so powerful that no one who has any less prowess than the Lord's own can destroy him, even if he were to try for 100 years. Says Markandeya. Canto. Where are we? 201, 202, I think. Yeah, 201. Question. What is the point? Huh. Good question. I, as if The point is, oh, again, it is your dharma to protect your people and nothing else. That's the whole concept of this canto. Probably no, I don't think so. But I cannot really take seriously this stuff of, oh yeah, this guy who was born to this other guy and who had family with this guy and whose son was this other guy. No, I there is no point in that. I don't know. Mm. I mean, to some degree, I was sort of joking. I guess it partially it is true that, yeah, oh king, it is your dharma to protect your people, free us from more anxieties by being our protector. It gets to be, to some degree, a serious statement. Great merit attaches to the karma of protecting the people of this world, punya which you cannot have by living as a sannyasin. Is is that the concept? I mean, I can only I can make sense out of it, but I do not see it as a reasonable conclusion. In general, I think it's mostly attached to, yeah, yeah. You have this function in which you get to help other people, not because other people are in dire need of you, but rather because there is always an open position in any society, let's say, in which anybody can become strong enough to defend or to fend off the most dangerous adversaries of the society itself. That's why, in this case, the role of the protector is basically that, to protect, well, but to directly confront those situations. That's also why, to some degree, it is even a more designed role that no other person can do except this guy. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the repeating narrative. The Pandavas themselves, for example, are in some way the protectors of the rest of the Kurus, or are the protectors from the evil that the Kurus bring onto the world because they are going to be the ones who are going to get rid of them. That's a whole explanation, I guess, but I don't know if that is truly it. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's the most reasonable thing I can say. And besides that, the way in which you understand how this Ashura is and whatnot, I don't think that constitutes anything else. No, yeah, that's that's it. Now, question: how long is this candle? I'm not going to read it if it's okay. Okay. Uh, we have finally some conflict, some fight. We are we're going to read like these two, right? Okay. Let me do that. And after that, I guess, yeah, we are done. Or, I wanted to read the whole fight. I finally have interest in it, so I should try to read at least all of this. But yeah, I wasn't expecting. Once again, yeah, I don't know. I'm still shocked by those 9 pages in a row. Sorry. Continuing. Yeah. Canto 202. Markandeya Samasya Parava continued. Markandeya says, Kurustama, at Utanka's word, that unvanquished royal sage joined his palms and said to him, Your visit will not be in vain, Holy One. This is my son, Kubalaswa, who is strong and steadfast. His prowess is unsurpassed on earth. He will undoubtedly accomplish what you ask. With the help of his heroic sons, whose arms are like iron maces, give me leave to go to Sannyasa, Brahmana, for I have given up my weapons. The Munu replied, saying, Tatastu, so be it. Raharishi Brihada Brihadaswa commanded his son to fulfill Utanka's plea and, saying, "Do what needs to be done," he retired to the forest. Ilkistira says, "Holy One, who was this powerful Daitya? Whose son and whose grandson was he? I have not heard of this mighty Daitya before. I want to know everything and in detail. Oh, illumined sage." Eh, another detour instead of a detour. Markandeya says, "Then listen to everything just as it happened, O ruler of men. When the world became one immense expanse of water and all the mobile and immobile creatures were destroyed, when all creation ended, Vishnu the Eternal, the Ever Lustrous, the source of the universe, he whom sages have named the Supreme Lord of the universe, that sacred being, lay in Yoganidra, in yogic sleep upon the coals of the Nagasesha. Vishnu of the infinite Tejas, that blessed and holy Hari, who knows no decay, lay on coals that encircled the earth, and as the deity lay asleep on his serpentine bed, a lotus of shimmering beauty, radiant as the sun, sprang from his navel, and from that sublime lotus emerged Pitamaha Brahma, the Lord of the worlds, the embodiment of the four Vedas, four-formed and four-faced, invincible by his own energy, mighty of strength and prowess, Lord Hari of the wondrous body, lustrous, adorned with a crown, and the Kaustubhai, jewel and clad in full with silk, lay with his body stretched across many yoganas on the superlative snake bed, protected by the hood of the snake that extended wide and far. O king, ablaze with beauty, illustrious as a thousand-masked suns, when he had been in repose for some time, two mighty Danavas named Madhu and Kaitabha saw him, and, seeing her in that posture, and seeing lotus-leaf-eyed Brahma sitting on the lotus, Madhu and Kaitabha were excited. Brahma became terrified at their boisterousness and trembled on his seat. The stalk of the lotus on which he sat began to quiver, wakened the sleeping Kesava. Awakened from his slumber, Govinda saw those awesome Danavas and said to them, "Welcome, mighty ones. I am pleased with you, and I will grant you excellent boons." Rahan, the proud and mighty Danavas, laughingly replied to Hrishikesa, "You may ask boons of us, O divine supreme God. We would like to grant you a boon. In fact, we will indeed grant a boon. Therefore, ask us for anything that comes to your mind." Hari said, "Valiant ones, I will accept a boon from you. There is something that I want. Both of you have ineffable techers. There is no man to equal either of you. Submit yourself to be killed by me. That is the boon I ask for the good of the world." At this, Madhu and Kaitabha said, "We have never before told a lie, even in jest, let alone seriously. Purushotama, we have always been steadfast in the path of truth and morality, in strength, in physique, in beauty, in virtue, in asceticism, in charity, in conduct, in goodness, and in self-control. We have no equal. Kesava, we face grave danger. Accomplish what you have said. No one can prevail over destiny, but, Lord, there is one thing that we ask you to do. Best and first of all gods, you must kill us at a place that is absolutely uncovered. And, oh, Lotuside, we also wish to be born as your sons. This is the boon that we ask. Oh, Devadeva, do not break the promise you first made to us." The Divine One replied, "I will do as you ask. Everything will be as you wish." Markandeya continues, "Govinda searched in his mind for a suitable place, but he could not think of any uncovered space. Failing to discover an absolutely open place, he noticed that his thighs were uncovered and cut off Madhu and Kaitapha's heads on them with his Sudarshana chakra. There was no fight. Slide. Is let me rapidly skim through this. Is this the conflict? Okay, yeah. This is another violence. Let's go. Sorry. Yeah. Also, conclusion. Can I make any conclusion out of 202? No, nothing. Sorry. I don't think so. I think it's rapidly. I have one. I have one. The truth is, this is the origin myth of one of the many deities. That's why it's useful, but at the same time, it's not really that informative because at the same time, we do not really focus on the gods themselves. We try to focus more on the message, so it's hard to truly say anything particular out of, wow, yeah, this god was born this way. Even more, this sort of god, which is directly related to another previous even higher deity. I am not that good with divine stuff in general. So yeah, sorry. Let me continue. Let's do the final canto. Canto 203. Markandeya Samasya Parva continued. Markandeya says, Dunhu was the son of Madhu and Kaintapha. He was a demon of immense energy and prowess, and he performed austere tapasya. He stood on one leg and reduced his body to a mass of only veins and arteries, and Brahma, gratified with him, gave him a boon. The boon he asked of Prajapati was that no one would be able to kill him, not the Devas, the Danavas, the Rakshasas, the Nagas, or the Gandharvas. The Pitamaha granted him his wish and the Danava went his way. After reverently worshipping Brahma by placing the god's feet on his head, with his boon hand, Dunhu hurried to Vishnu, thinking of how Vishnu had killed his father. Rightfully, he began wreaking havoc, first conquering the Gandharvas and then the Devas, with Vishnu at their head. Finally, a bull of the Maharajas, that black soul, Ashura, arrived at the Uhalaka desert and began to violate Utanka's asrama. The first Tunhu, son of Madhu and Kaitapha, laid his cave under the suns in dread tapasya with the object of destroying the three worlds. It was during this time that the Raharishi Kubalaswa set out for Tatisrama with his troops, accompanied by all his sons and by the Brahmana Utanka. When Kubalaswa embarked on his campaign with his 21,000 sons, Lord Vishnu filled him with his own energy. At the command of Uttanka, and impelled by the desire to render a service to the three worlds, as Kubalaswa proceeded, a loud voice spoke from the sky, repeatedly saying, Blessed and unslayable, you will become the destroyer of Dunhu today. The gods showered divine flowers on him, and the celestial drums began to sound reverberantly, although none played upon them. And during the march, cool breezes began to blow, and the king of the gods sent down gentle rain to moisten the dust on the roads, and Yudhishthira, the chariots of the celestial ones, hovered high over Dunsu's subterranean cavern of Tapasya. The Devas, Gandharvas, and great rishis, urged by curiosity, came there towards the encounter between Dunhu and Kubalaswa. Kubalaswa, bristling with Narayana Surhas and his sons with him, soon surrounded the desert and ordered that it be excavated. Often after 7 days of digging in the sand, the king's son unearthed the mighty Ashura Dunhu, whose massive body lay nestled radiant with his own energy, like the sun himself. He covered the entire western quarter of the desert as he lay. Kubalaswa's sons encircled him and attacked him with arrows and maces, with short, heavy clubs and axes, with iron spikes and darts, and with glistening, keen-edged swords. The towering Danava rose in rage from his supine position and began to swallow all the weapons that were hurled at him, and then spat flames from his mouth. Flames like those of the fire Sambartaka that burns at the end of the Yuga. That Ashura consumed all the king's sons in his flames, even like the Lord Kapila burned the sons of King Sagara long ago. In a mere moment, the furious Ashura engulfed the three worlds with the flames that shot out of his mouth in endless tongues. Bharatotama, when all those sons of Kubalaswa were consumed by the Ashura's angry fire, the king, filled with divine power, approached Ternava, who confronted him. Like mighty Kumbhakarna, on waking from his slumber. From the body of the king, a set of water gushed, which quickly extinguished the flames loosed by the Asura. The royal Kubalaswa, filled with yogic power, saluted him with a Brahmastra, which is invoked to relieve Triloka of its fears. Once Raharishi Kubalaswa had killed the immense Ashura, that foe of the Devas and slayer of all his enemies, with the exceptional weapon, he became like a second king of the three worlds. And from then on, the noble Kubalaswa came to be known by the name of Dun, Dunhumara for having slain Ashura Dunhu and came to be regarded as being invincible in battle. The Devas and the Rishis who had come to witness the encounter were so delighted with him that they said to him, "Ask us for a boon." The king bowed to them and, filled with soil, said with hands joined in reverence, "Let me always be able to give well to devout Brahmanas. Let me be invincible to all my enemies. Let Vishnu always be my friend. Let me love all creatures. Let my heart always turn towards Dharma. And let me live in Swarga forever." The Devas, the Rishis, and the Brahmana Utanga were extremely pleased and said, "It shall be as you wish, O king." They bestowed many other blessings on him, and the Devas and Maharishis went away to their respective abodes. Yudhishthira, after the slaughter of his sons, King Kubalaswa had only three sons left, and they were called Dridaswa, Kapilaswa, and Chandraswa. It is from them Rahan that the illustrious line of Ikshvaku kings, all of immeasurable prowess, has sprung. This was how the great deity Tunku, the son of Madhu and Kaitapha, was killed by Kubalaswa, and this was why the king came to be known as Dunhumara. I have now told you all that you asked about the one whose deeds made the story of Dunhu's death famous. He that listens to this sacred narrative of Vishnu's glory becomes virtuous and is blessed with children. By listening to this story on particular days of the month, one is blessed with longevity and prosperity, and is freed from all anxiety and fear of disease. Wow, that's also let me copy the page before I forget. That's Canto 203, I think. Yeah, yeah, 203. Verso. Can I say anything? Do I have any conclusion for this? I don't know. I wanted the fight. I'm happy with the fight. It was sort of incredibly brief. I thought it was going to be like, oh wow, yeah, two lines or two entire cantos of, yeah, punch and kick and wah, like it happened in other cases. But no, it was like, oh yeah, these two entirely incomprehensible beings destroy the worlds, then remake them, then wow, so triumphy. No, yeah, I don't have a conclusion. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have something to say. I think it's mostly like, oh yeah, the origin story or however you say that of these guys basically is that of this line of this bloodline that is this myth basically that is what that serves us. But I don't think in itself it has anything particularly important to denote or to highlight. I guess okay. Let's say like this: one of the only possible ways to understand it is that indeed the way in which they get to portray themselves, the what was the line? It said it in some place. Vishnu, no, Madhu, Kaitafa, Kubalaswa, King, Dunkumara, Ixbaku. Okay. All the Ixbakus, Ix, yeah, the illustrious line of Ixbaku kings are supposedly the proper governors of the world, and that is the only way in which you can see this, that they get to place themselves as the most divine bloodline in existence, so to speak. That's why it gets to be important. But I don't know if I truly need to talk about that sort of stuff. Like, once I don't actually get out stuff of, oh yeah, yeah, the caste system and oh yeah, or conflicts of interest. I don't know. Good conclusion, but I can skip. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think so. I don't have anything else to say. I'm tired. This point I'm tired. Yeah, I am tired. Thank you. Uh, let me rapidly. I don't know. Good evening. We are done. We are so done for today, for tonight. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the patience, for the time. I I think I was even too absorbed on the reading. I'm starting. Welcome, Etsy. Well, I am literally saying goodbye. Hope you're aware, Etsy. Just in time to say goodbye. Uh, welcome. Sorry, sorry that I guess also, yeah, I was thinking about it at some point recently. We had once again the time zones change yet again, so we are now like 2 hours uh, beyond. No, you are 2 hours beyond me, so that's funny. But anyway, I hope you're fine. I hope I assume that if you're here and you're not streaming, so I hope you have a nice rest day, brother. But yeah, that's it. I guess I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I was going to say. I think I even read way too much. I'm starting to feel like when you forget that you have other physical needs, and out of nowhere you get up from your chair and you realize that you're almost there, passing out from a lack of food consumption or something of that sort. Yeah, that's literally me right now. So yeah, I guess I will go now. I will. I will try to go to sleep now. Thank you for this experience. When are we going to? I don't know. I don't know when. Next week, I assume. But yeah, it was good. Thank you for everything. I don't know. I'm tired, brother. I'm incredibly tired. I don't. Please forgive me for not writing. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Anyways, at least I can say that. Have a good night. Take care. Rest. Hydrate. Be a good person. Uh, give gifts to Brahmanas. No, don't do that. Or do that? I don't know. We don't have Brahmanas here. Find a Brahmana and give them something? No. Uh, anyway, I'm fucking losing it. Need to go. Good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you for everything. That's the point. That's the point. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hearing. Thank you for paying attention. I hope it was meaningful in any way. I hope anyone could understand anything and get anything out of this. Thanks. Have a wonderful night. Thank you. That's it. Now for real. Good night.